Chapter 510, Sky-Splitting Calamity. The worldly apparition caused terror in the Shouja of Cloud Sijia. They quickly received news that similar apparitions had appeared in the nearby Jia. As this news spread, people became insecure. What did this apparition, that seemed to herald the end of the world, mean? The doorways of divination Shouja were packed with people that came to visit them. The customers were all people who came to inquire what this worldly apparition meant. Cloud Sijia did not have any powerful people skilled in divination, but almost all the divination Shouja reported that this apparition was an inauspicious one. This news caused all people to feel insecure. The effect of this was that the prices of goods on the market skyrocketed. The rumors quickly dissipated and the truth was revealed. A small sect called Sky Record Sect was attacked by a strange troop and almost the entire sect had been killed. At the start, this news did not attract much attention, but this strange troop quickly advanced and blood was spilled everywhere they passed. People suddenly discovered to their shock that this was a Mo army. In the beginning, many people snorted at the news. Mo army? Ha! This was too funny. The Cloud Sijia was thousands of li from the front lines. What Mo army could sneak into Cloud Sijia without being detected? But these people quickly stopped laughing. Because this Mo army was unstoppable. No one was able to stop their advance. The large sects along their warpath all fell under the heels of this Mo army. All the Shouja that managed to escape lost their courage and only knew to flee for their lives. They were too powerful. From when they were discovered, they were like a sharp drill. In only 3 days they advanced 6,000 li. The sects and the cities in their way were all uprooted and burned down. In these short 3 days, the atmosphere of Cloud Sijia changed. People fought to flee this place in hopes of avoiding this calamity. Yet the news that came from the outside caused them to feel hopeless. There were many Jia within 4 realms where these chaos rifts had appeared. Large numbers of Mo armies flooded out of these chaos rifts. No one knew why these chaos rifts appeared, but any Shouja with a thread of intelligence understood something. The sky had changed. It really changed. The battle at Blood Sky Metropolis Jia had never stopped, but for Shouja far from the front lines, the war was just another topic of discussion. But now, the abrupt appearance of the chaos rifts pushed the fighting into their lives. It was a cruel and inescapable bog. This was a disaster, a sky-splitting calamity. The fires of war appeared everywhere. When Zuoyamo learned of this news, he was stunned. Having fought his way out of Blood Sky Metropolis Jia, he knew much better than these normal Shouja what these chaos rifts represented. Little Miss, Wei Sheng, Shu Long, Zong Ru. When the people heard the news, they didn't dare to believe their ears. The silent hall was oppressive to Shan Wei Ming. He timidly looked at the people gathered. This is what I managed to find out from the outside. It's crazy out there. Should. Everyone looked at him. He couldn't help but feel panic. Should we prepare to leave early? He gathered his courage and continued, everyone is packing up and preparing to leave Cloud Sijia right now. The Mo army is too strong. No one can stop them. There aren't any large sects around. It is very dangerous for us to stay here. No one paid him attention. Everyone turned their eyes to Zuoyamo. At these times, the person who always set the direction was Zuoyamo. Zuoyamo thought for a long time before he slowly spoke, if we leave Cloud Sijia, where would we go? The chaos rifts are everywhere, we do not even know how many chaos rifts are still undiscovered. If we move to an unfamiliar place, it is even more disadvantageous for us. We put great effort into Turtle Island and the defenses are very sturdy. Even if we encounter the Mo army, we have the chance to fight. We weren't afraid of them in Bloody Sky Metropolis Jia, are we going to be afraid of them here? The suppressive atmosphere inside the hall instantly swept away. Everyone's morale rose at Zuomo's words. Yes, everyone had fought and killed their way out of Bloody Sky Metropolis Jia. They hadn't been afraid of the Mo military in bloody sky metropolis Jia. What was there to be afraid of here? We're not afraid. They dare to rampage on top of our head, I say kill them. Lei Peng's loud voice made people's eardrums hurt. He glared and held his golden crystal broadsword as though he wanted to start immediately. Nian Lu took over with a slightly soft voice, don't be so brutish. Be more gentle, be more gentle. Allow them to feel our friendship and enthusiasm towards Yamwa, let's be friends. Idiots. Looking at the display of his teammates, Ma Fan spat out. Sui Mo looked at Gong Sun Cha. There was a smile at the corners of Lil Miss' mouth that was filled with innocence and bashfulness. However, his eyes were filled with an excited light. Those familiar with him all felt their hearts jump. Zuemo gazed at Shu Long. Shu Long's presence had become even more solemn and heavy in recent days. Standing there, he seemed like a mountain. He noticed Zuomo's gaze. Raising his head, he did not disguise the fighting spirit in his eyes. Darren, Shu Long requests to battle. Zuemo was slightly surprised. Shu Long was steady in personality and his specialty in battle was the defense rather than offense. It was the first time he had seen Shu Long desirous of battle. What? Your hand is itching. Zuemo said with a smile. This subordinate wants to see what true Mo military is like, Shu Long said gravely. Zuemo finally understood. Guard camp cultivated Mo skills and the battle methods of guard camp were very close to the Mo military. Shu Long probably wanted to see who was stronger, guard camp or the Mo army. Zuemo felt a small headache. Why did this guy also have to get competitive? Was it Wei that had egged him on from the back? At the side, Shang Wei Ming's mouth was open and could not close. What did they mean killed their way out of blood sky metropolis Jie? Why weren't they afraid? This was the infamous Mo army. He found to his shock that he understood pitifully little of Darren and the others. No one paid attention to him. After agreement of their thoughts, they quickly and methodically started to act. For this fight, Zuemo took out much of the materials he had gotten from the Sun Shan Temple and gave them to Golden Crow Camp to forge into talismans. Fortunately the stores on the island were filled and they were rich. They did not need to worry about running of supplies. Like an enormous machine, all of Turtle Island started to furiously turn. Which batch is this? The 6th. Is Turtle Island not planning to leave? Liao Qi-chang was puzzled. At this time, every sect was racing against time to pack up and escape Cloud Sea Jia. Turtle Island's actions became extremely eye-catching. Xiuzha continuously flew out of Turtle Island on nimbus clouds and flew away with the wind. In the span of half a day, 6 groups of Xiuzha had left Turtle Island. Looking at the direction they flew in, it was in the direction of the Mo army. All the signs suggested that Turtle Island did not plan on leaving. Did they plan to fight against the Mo army? When this idea popped out, it frightened him. That was impossible. That was a Mo army. And it was also a very powerful Mo army. No way, isn't that seeking death? The Xiuzha beside him was disbelieving. Didn't you hear? Even the Wind Element sect was defeated. Who can stop them? Liao Qi-chang's mood dimmed when he heard this. Wind Element sect was a large sect that was ranked 6th in Cloud Sea Jia. Even they had not been able to escape the knife of the Mo army. The strength of this Mo army could be imagined. Other than Wind Element sect, even Beautiful Water sect, a sect ranking in the top 10, was defeated. This was another reason why no one had the courage to fight back and only knew to run away. There was no possibility of victory. Even the sects that ranked at the top like Wind Element sect and Beautiful Water sect had been defeated. These 2 sects had been very powerful. With the examples in front of them, who would be the egg that tried to smash the rock? Liao Qi-chang did not speak and only stared at Turtle Island. A while later, another few Xiuzha flew out. Liao Qi-chang's eyes lit up. He recognized one of them and shouted loudly, "Is it Mr. Ma Fan?" Ma Fan heard the shout and turned to look. Seeing it was Liao Qi-chang, he flew down. He said with a bow, "Boss Liao, you have not left yet. Where can we escape to?" Liao Qi-chang sighed. Ma Fan's moved and he said, "Boss Liao can probably have a temporary stay on the island. The island is relatively safe." Safe? Such a great proclamation, the Shouja next to Liao Qi-chang said with a snort. Ma Fan stared at the other and was too lazy to respond. Liao Qi-chang's expression shifted. "You are not planning on leaving?" Ma Fan laughed lightly, "Just as Boss Liao has said, where can we escape to? Rather than that, we will make a stand here. I will give you people some words, don't try to be heroes and overconfident. You feel that your heads are harder than rock," the Shouja next to Liao Qi-chang said in a strange tone. Lei Peng could not resist. His cowbell-sized eyes suddenly widened as his hand lit up as he slapped. "Shut up." The other person reacted quickly. His Ling armor lit up. But Lei Peng's blow was extremely heavy. Without any finesse, it landed on the illuminated Ling armor. The person felt a great force pass over and his body uncontrollably fell back. Crash! Lei Peng slapped the person onto the ground. He jumped up of the ground, his face flushed with anger. "You dare to attack me, you don't want to live." Hiss. It was a quiet hiss. A line of coldness could be felt on his throat. The cold sword edge pressed tightly against his throat and caused his hairs to stand on end. He did not dare to move at all. Uncontrollable terror flooded him. His legs unconsciously rattled. Idiot! The flying sword returned to Ma Fan's hand. Ma Fan didn't look at the person that was frightened into a daze. He turned and said to Liao Qi-chang, "If Boss Liao goes to the island, Darren will definitely welcome you. We have a mission to complete and will not linger. Farewell." Finishing, the three got on their nimbus clouds and disappeared into the sky. Chapter 511, Hope, did you hear? Turtle Island is not fleeing. Are they crazy? Are they waiting for their deaths? Waiting for their death. They want to fight against the Mo army. These are true men. But can they win? Look at Wind Element Sect and Beautiful Water Sect, there wasn't even one survivor. No matter how powerful Turtle Island is, are they stronger than Wind Element Sect and Beautiful Water Sect? And doesn't know if they are strong or not, but knows everyone is fleeing and only they dare to fight. They are true men, and respects them. No, and has to also participate in this fight. Even if and dies, and will accept it. Don't do stupid things. His friend urged him out of concern. The news that Turtle Island was preparing to fight was like throwing a pebble into a pool of boiling water. The reactions were laughter, scorn, and indifference. But it also attracted many people's attention. Many Cloud Cgia Shouja that grew up here were not willing to flee Cloud Cgia like this. There were also people like Liao Qi-chang who had many illiquid assets and properties in Cloud Cgia, so their faction would have a difficult time leaving. At the beginning, everyone was panicking, clueless, and disorganized like a pile of scattered sand. They soon calmed down and found reasons to fight. When the news that Turtle Island was preparing a resistance spread, they seemed to have found their spines. Large amounts of Shouja flooded from all directions towards Turtle Island. In the span of a few days, an astounding number of Shouja gathered near Turtle Island. When Zuo discovered this situation, he had a great headache. Turtle Island was small in number, but they were well trained. They were familiar with battle formations and directing them was as easy as controlling limbs. They had great combat capabilities. These Shouja that came now were varied in strength and had no training in battle formations. If they were put onto the battlefield, they couldn't even count as roaming warriors. But if he did not pay attention to them, and someone caused them to stir, they would be a great threat towards Turtle Island. Liao Qichang hurriedly said, Island Master, morale is useful. Everyone's blood is boiling, Island Master, do not cool their hearts. I see that there are famed ones among them. This is an enormous power. If Island Master can recruit them, after this event, no one will be a rival for Island Master in Cloud Sea Jia. Sui Mo grimaced inside. He did not say what he worried him to Liao Qichang. This guy was an amateur in war and couldn't understand. He thought for a while. The arrival of these people wasn't completely a bad thing. Turtle Island wasn't small in scale, but their numbers were too few. The majority of them were also low-level production shoujo. The composition of their members was not rational. If they wanted to survive in Cloud Sea Jia, they had to have enough combat shoujo. Otherwise, if the people of Vermilion Bird Camp and Guard Camp fell and could not be replenished, then they would only weaken the more they fought. As long as that chaos rift existed, Cloud Sea Jia was akin to being on the front lines. Suemo gritted his teeth and said, get them to come in. Compared to Liao Qichang's excitement, the other people had serious expressions. They knew that Suemo would have instructions following this statement. Suemo wasn't courteous and said directly, pick the strong ones from these people and set up another camp, Black Turtle Camp. They are unskilled right now, so they need to train in battle formations. Ma Fan, you caused this mess, so you will do this. Ma Fan was filled with regret. Getting him to train this group of greenhorns was worse than killing him. At the side, Nian Lu and Lei Peng had expressions of schadenfreude. They would willingly go onto the battlefield to kill enemies rather than interact with a group of greenhorns every day. They knew very well how difficult it was for Vermilion Bird Camp to go from nothing to something respectable. It definitely was not an easy task to bring a group of ignorant greenhorns to Vermilion Bird Camp's skill level. Glancing at the duo's expressions, Ma Fan asked Suemo without changing his expression, Darren, I won't be able to do it by myself. Can I get a few brothers to help? Lei Peng and Nian Lu's expressions instantly changed. Suemo waved his hand and crisply agreed, yes. This matter was finalized like this. Bu Si-dong looked at the red fire clouds on top of Turtle Island. His thoughts wandered. He was one of the people in the first group allowed onto Turtle Island. He was born and raised in Cloud Sea Jia and was naturally unwilling to see Cloud Sea Jia become the backyard of the Mo. When he heard Turtle Island was preparing to have a great battle with the Mo army, he ran over in hopes of joining Turtle Island. But unexpected to him, Turtle Island did not immediately accept anyone. The island protecting formation was securely closed. Other than shoujo that entered and left every day, no one spoke to them. He personally saw how Turtle Island had gone from empty to being completely filled. All of the shoujo that came here only had one goal: they hoped to join Turtle Island and fight against the Mo army. Yet no one paid attention to the people. Several fiery-tempered people were so angry they charged at the formation. Then they were burned to ash by the formation. Those beautiful dusky red clouds were fatal. This scene caused the heads of the surrounding people to calm down. Another batch of shoujo rode on roaring nimbus clouds and headed into the fire clouds. Every time this happened, Bu Si-dong's eyes turned around. This Turtle Island was really rich. He wasn't the only one to think this. The admiring words of the surrounding people entered his ears. They were not ignorant country bumpkins, but every time they saw this, they couldn't resist sighing in praise. Wearing intermediate 4th grade blue soul cold light armor, ethereal cloud wings on their backs, tiger-style flowing light boots on their feet, serene heart intelligence hats on their head, and the nimbus cloud that left trails behind them. It was a complete set of 4th grade attire. With the cloud wings, why did they drag nimbus clouds along? Could they be any more wasteful? Countless people wanted to charge up and strip these people clean. At the beginning, people were envious, but they felt that it was acceptable that Turtle Island would outfit their elite with this level of equipment given Turtle Island's strength. Which power did not have a few hundred elite that were completely loyal? But they quickly found to their shock that this was their standard equipment. Anyone that came out of there wore this. Many people cried. These were real tycoons. Their heated hearts were stirred up further to the point that they almost burned themselves. Bu Xidong did not lose his calm. He looked around and thought. Turtle Island was still maintaining its silence. He suddenly had a feeling that Turtle Island was not so easy to join. When this thought appeared, it did not demotivate him. It increased his confidence. All of Turtle Island's actions showed how they were different from other factions. Maybe they could really defeat the Mo army. Bu Xidong jumped in fright at the thought that popped up. At this time, the large formation of Turtle Island suddenly opened and the dusky fire clouds split apart. A troop of about 200 Xiuzha appeared in people's view. All fourth-grade attire, all golden flying swords, unusually regular. Sword show. Shocked, people thought inside, so many sword show, was Turtle Island a sword-cultivating sect? They did not give people the time to digest this. The cloud wings on the back of the leading Xiuzha moved and then the cloud wings on the back of the 200 sword Xiu moved in unison. The entire troop disappeared from people's view. All of them were shocked. Such quick speed. Such great cooperation. They are up over there, someone shouted in shock. Everyone raised their heads. They saw the 200 sword Xiu who were like an unsheathed sword at this moment giving off rampant murderousness and battle spirit. They took over the entire sky. They looked down at them, the cold and murderous presence silently pervading. People suddenly had the feeling they were trapped in dark and cold bog. Any kind of struggle would cause them to move closer to death. So powerful. Bu Xidong's eyes were unfocused as he murmured to himself. Suddenly, his pupils contracted, and his body shook. In the sky, a cold voice sounded. Kill. 200 people shouted, kill. The killing essence that took over the sky rained down like a typhoon. The ice-cold presence that was omnipresent filled every inch of space like sharp-edged daggers. Bu Xidong felt as though he was standing in a space filled with sword essence. The howling of the sword essence tearing through the air was like countless wails and caused him to lose any intentions of resisting. The vast sword essences were like an unstoppable flood that carried killing intent as it came down from the sky. All of the Xiuzha present paled in front of such a powerful attack and shook. No one dared to move. They feared that the tiniest move would cause the other's sword to change direction. These Xiuzha that were used to fighting one-on-one suddenly discovered, in front of such a tsunami-like attack from the battle formation, just how laughable their so-called rich experience was. Individual bravery was as minuscule as an ant in front of such powerful attack. The sword energies disappeared into the distance. Echoes carried back. Turtle Island's surroundings were deathly silent. Ma Fan was very satisfied with the effects of the demonstration. But when he recalled how these people had been so scared they didn't even dare to move and how they were going to become his subordinates, he became discontent again. But he did not show it on his face. He said solemnly, I come with orders from Darren to set up Black Turtle Camp. Those that are confident in their strength can come try. From today onwards until the time of the battle, Turtle Island is open. Everyone, Turtle Island has strict rules and requirements, take care of yourselves. With the lingering effects of that sword strike, no one dared to make a sound. Ma Fan did not speak more. He turned and led the troop back into Turtle Island. Bu Xidong quickly recovered from his shock. Turtle Island was open. Setting up Black Turtle Camp. He instantly started to think and was overjoyed. Without any hesitation, he flew towards Turtle Island. He was filled with confidence. Turtle Island's battalions were more powerful than the rumors said. He didn't know if this kind of battalion could defeat the Mo army, but he knew this was the battalion of Cloud Xijia that had the highest probability of succeeding. He was very curious. What was Turtle Island really like? On this day, the news that Turtle Island had opened quickly spread through Cloud Xijie. Ma Fan's group attack was also exaggerated to a great degree. Those scornful still snorted, those feeling afraid still rushed to escape. Only those that had a glimmer of hope remaining flew day and night towards Turtle Island. Chapter 512, A Goal. They are all moving towards a place called Turtle Island. Supposedly, there is a faction there that plans on fighting against us. The vice commander reported emotionlessly. Oh, Shi Dong's expression was cold as made a neutral sound. He said lightly, "This is also good. They are all gathering together and it will save us a lot of trouble." The vice commander did not speak, his eyes were half-lidded as he stood there like a rock. His commander was a daring and outstanding person who did not need looking after. Shi Dong might have been born a low-level mantis mo, but he possessed the rare bloodline of the sky mantis. He had the classic tall and slender body of mantis mo. There wasn't a flaw on his carven face. His blue pupils were as pure and clear as icy sapphires and his expression was forever cold and distant. His mantis blade was a completely different shape than normal mantis blades. It was held at his waist. The blade was narrow and long, almost touched the ground. The curve of the blade was very small and seemed between a saber and a sword. Looking at the handsome commander, the vice commander sighed inside. If Darren wasn't born a mantis mo, he probably would have been promoted long ago. Even though Darren did not care, he couldn't help but feel injustice on Darren's behalf. "Slow the advance," Shi Dong said coldly. "Yes." The vice commander's thoughts came back. With slight pondering, he understood what Darren intended. Darren wanted to give the other side enough time to gather. This way, they could avoid spending the time searching for these people and get rid of them in one battle. Darren was really confident. The large numbers of Xioja coming into Turtle Island caused Turtle Island to become bustling and noisy. Most of the Xioja that came were combat Xioja, filled with fighting spirit. There were some that were extremely rebellious and were hard to manage. However, when Wei Sheng, Zhong Ru, Xia Shan, and the other Jindan came out, they instantly took care of those disobedient people. The rebellious people were thrown into the sword formation to experience its torture. The wails that occasionally passed out of the sword formation caused the passers-by to uncontrollably tremble. Turtle Island instantly became orderly. Every combat Shio that entered Turtle Island would attend the selection for Black Turtle Camp immediately, but they quickly comprehended what it meant to be part of a Turtle Island battalion. The combat Shio that had the bravery to come at this time all had rich combat experience and good strength. In other factions, they could easily become part of the elite battalion. In actuality, many of them had left the elite battalions of other factions to come here and fight. But these elites came out with dusty faces and dejection after experiencing the first day of qualifications. They finally tasted the great strength of Turtle Island's battalions. Strict regulations that they had never ever heard of, the level of training was so high that many people did not last through the first day. Now these Xioja understood that the 200 combat Shio they saw that first day was the standard combat Shio in Turtle Island. Turtle Island did not have a so-called elite battalion. Corresponding to the high requirements of Black Turtle Camp was the great benefits that many were jealous of. The first batch of people that were chosen and went through combat formation training would receive a complete 4th grade outfit. Many people were jealous of the 4th grade outfits that Vermilion Bird Camp wore. If they could finish the training, they could receive the same outfit. Where else could they find something as good as this? Black Turtle Camp was extremely busy. Suemo took away his gaze. He would not be able to put any hopes on Black Turtle Camp in the short term. The formation of a battalion required time. The composition of Black Turtle Camp was also extremely varied. There were a mixture of Xioja. It took a lot of mental effort to even think of combat formations they could train in. Fortunately, other than the combat Shio, there were also 3 silver battle generals. With the help of the 3 silver battle generals, Ma Fan's burden lightened greatly. Even so, according to Lil Miss estimates, it would take at least 1 year for Black Turtle Camp to be ready for battle. We have found out that there are about 3,000 people in this Mo army. Their strength isn't bad, Gong Sun Cha said unconcernedly. He probably had been influenced by Pu Yao. It was very difficult for this guy to even say, not bad. They have slowed down their advance. They probably want to give us time to gather and then defeat us in one blow. Lil Miss smiled. Seeing Lil's Miss smile, the surrounding people shivered. Lil Miss was angry. Some people had smiles of schadenfreude. What Yama, what monsters, if they provoked Lil Miss, he he he. How are we going to fight? Xu Long asked straightforwardly. Xu Long was clear to his strengths and weaknesses. In terms of scheming, ambushing and trickery, he was far from Lil Miss equal. Therefore, he decided not to waste the brainpower. Lil Miss said lazily, why don't we just charge over? I don't believe they are stronger than Vermilion Bird Camp. The lazy words were filled with confidence. Lil Miss was clearly enraged by the other battle general's intentions. This insane idea caused Vermilion Bird Camp to rustle excitedly. If it was other people facing the Mo army, they would have mental pressure, but for Vermilion Bird Camp, Mo army was nothing. They had seen the Mo armies of Blood Sky Metropolis Jia, they were just that level. Vermilion Bird Camp had completely changed out their outfit, and their strength had grown. Their confidence was at a peak. Come, come. Face to face, let's have a fight. Many people wanted to howl. No. Swaemo glared at Lil Mississippi. It was not that he did not have the confidence in Vermilion Bird Camp, but even if they won through fighting head-on, the fatalities would be astounding. Everyone in Vermilion Bird Camp had followed him for this long, how could he bear for them to fight the other head-on? He could not do unprofitable business. We need to get the greatest victory with the smallest amount of fatalities. Swomo's tone was concerned. Seeing that everyone still had opinions, he instantly followed up, our goal is to defeat this Mo army, not kill them all off. We only have to chase them back into the Mo world so we can seal the Chaos Rift. Do not forget that when we win, we still need to have the strength to take care of Cloud Sea Jia. Do we want others to pluck the fruits of our labor? Their heated heads finally calmed down. That was right, if they won this fight, Cloud Sea Jia was theirs. If they didn't have enough strength at that point, wasn't that working for others? No one believes we have the abilities to defeat the Mo army. Right now, all the major factions have fled, and Cloud Sea Jia almost void of other powers. For us, this is a great chance. If we can grasp it, Cloud Sea Jia will be ours in the future. The leaders around him listened carefully with excited expression on their faces. Compared to the Mo army, taking over Cloud Sea Jia caused more excitement in them. Swaemo said in a deep voice, Cloud Sea Jia is not bad. This is a very remote place, and there is almost no influence from the four-realm heaven, it is not attention-catching. Right now, the sky-splitting calamity is happening everywhere, so they do not have the attention to spare to make trouble for us. For us, this is the best time. Everyone straightened their spines, and suppressed their excitement. They had roamed around with Swa-Mo this entire time and were extremely desirous of owning a stable territory. Even Wei Sheng, who was usually steady, couldn't help but nod his head at Swa-Mo's words. So this time, our goals are very clear. 1. Defeat the Mo army and seal the Chaos Rift. 2. Take this opportunity to take control of the Jia rivers and take over Cloud Sea Jia. Light flashed through Swamo's eyes. His right fist smashed down hard and a thread of dominance showed. Almost unconsciously, everyone shouted in unison, yes. Swamo took a breath. Even he had gotten excited at his own words. Calming down, he jumped at his own daring. At the beginning, he did not have this idea. It was only when he saw large amounts of Shouja gathering at Turtle Island that this idea had suddenly formed. After thinking for a few days, he had finally made a decision. Looking around, he found everyone had expression of excitement. All of their moods had transformed. Everyone was filled with energy and fighting spirit. It came from their excited and anticipatory faces. Suemo suddenly understood. A clear goal would cause everyone to unite. They were filled with motivation and drive. They would not muddle through like they did in the past few months. This troop was reborn. Strangely, Suemo felt some regret and apology. It was only today that he had given everyone a clear goal. He really had not been a good leader. No one noticed Suemo's guilt. Everyone was immersed in their dreams of the future. Since that's the case, then we will need to modify our plans. Lil Miss brushed the bangs at his forehead and 2 balls of red rose on his cheeks. He gave a bashful smile like that of the neighbor's boy. There are many advantages that we can use. The appearance of the Chaos Rift was too sudden. I believe that the Mo army has not adequately prepared. The reason that they have continuously won is because the local battalions of Cloud Jia are too weak, and also because everyone fears the Mo army. They do not have these 2 advantages against us. Also, we are fighting on home territory while they are battling a long distance from their base. We have more of an advantage. Everyone listened carefully. Everyone could feel the rare seriousness in Lil Miss' voice. It seemed that Lil Miss was also excited by Darren's words. We are more familiar with the environment, this means we can use things like the transportation formations. We can identify the positions of all the transportation formations. This means that we can maneuver behind the enemy and then make a sneak attack. Lil Miss continued, but we need to cut the passage between the other army and the Mo world before that. If the other can get reinforcements, this tactic will be disadvantageous for us. Everyone present nodded. Suemo looked at the calm Lil Miss and couldn't help but sigh. Lil Miss really had the mannerisms of a great general. Lil Miss put up 2 fingers. My battle plan is very simple. Send a troop to meet the Mo army and then send another troop to ambush the Chaos Rift and seal the rift. If the rift gets sealed, then we have 1/2 of the battle. That way, the other will only have 2 choices left. The first is to keep advancing forward, and the other is to fight to return to the Mo world. The possibility of them choosing the second is greater. We can set up a battlefield near the Chaos Rift and attack from front and back. Then they will be finished. Suemo thought deeply. He felt there wasn't any holes and said unhesitatingly, do it. Yes. Everyone shouted their acceptance. Chapter 513, When we made this decision, hey, Lil Bu. A familiar voice came from behind him. Bu Xidong stopped walking and when he saw the incomer, he showed happiness. He darted forward and threw a punch at the other's shoulder excitedly. Ha! Aja, you didn't leave either. I thought you already left. Leave? And go where? Aja laughed helplessly. His figure was slender and scholarly. There was a star-shaped mark on his forehead. He had grown up with Bu Xidong from childhood. Even though the 2 of them had later entered different sects, they had kept in contact. You are right. Bu Xidong's voice was emotional. He quickly gave a sunny smile. What are you doing now? Did you find work to do? Constructing the city. Aja pointed at the city which was now coming together. Island Master wants to rebuild Su Ling City. I'm responsible for a mid-sized defense formation. Wow! Bu Xidong showed a shocked expression. You're this strong now. I had thought you were only able to forge 2nd and 3rd grade paper seals. Aja said exasperatedly, I've lived this many years. Ah, if it wasn't that sect leader had wanted to leave Cloud Jia, I wouldn't have left the sect. The same with me. Bu Xidong sighed lightly. Both of them were in low moods. For them, their sects were like a second home. They were naturally reluctant to leave. Let's not speak about this. Bu Si-dong gathered his mind and said proudly, "Right, I've been selected for Black Turtle Camp. Isn't it great? You're that strong." This time, it was Aja's turn to be shocked. "I heard that the selection was very strict. It's over now that an amateur like you was able to get in. I feel slightly worried about my future." Bu Si-dong rolled his eyes. "I have to protect people like you in the future, am the one that should feel grief." "It is your honor, little Bu." Aja laughed as he patted Bu Si-dong's shoulder. Then he said concernedly, "I heard the training there is very difficult. Do you have enough Ling Dan?" "I have some here." "No need, no need." Bu Si-dong shook his hand and then said emotionally and in a show-off manner, "In reality, I have never thought there would be a day that I cultivate with such luxury. We get 2 pieces of 3rd grade Jingshi every day and 1 primary replenishing Dan. We have to finish using it. Every week, we will get a cleansing Dan to rid ourselves of the impurities and purify the Ling power." Aja's mouth was wide open as he stammered, that is too luxurious. Motherfucker, I finally know how those large sect disciples cultivate. With such a cultivation method, would they fail? Just absorbing Ling power from the Jingshi and the medicinal power from the primary replenishing Dan would take up half of the day. Then it is battle formation training. If we are the slightest bit incorrect, we can only wait to get punished. Thinking about the pains of cultivation, Bu Si-dong smacked his lips emotionally. Don't complain after benefiting. Aja was full of admiration. I heard long ago that the island is rolling in wealth. I hadn't thought they would be this wealthy. You really gained greatly. Huh, yes. Bu Si-dong said with pride. It is a pity I am not a sword shio. Turtle Island is best at training sword shio. You haven't seen Teacher Weiss' sword essence, it is uncanny. Oh, work well. In the future, if you make it, then you can protect me. Aja's expression was matter-of-fact. Bu Si-dong thought of a matter and hurriedly said, Aja, you can go try for Golden Crow Camp. That place is filled with shouja skilled in forging, seals and dan-making. I heard those admitted get Golden Crow Fire. Golden Crow Fire? 4th grade Golden Crow Fire. Aja's eyes were wide as though he had saw a ghost. Yes. Bu Si-dong nodded forcefully. I hear that they teach all kinds of forging methods. All of the Ling Dan that we use in cultivation are made by Golden Crow Camp. I went with Ma Fan Darren once and there were so many good things there that are just thrown on the floor. They can be seen everywhere, my heart hurt just looking at it. Which direction is Golden Crow Camp? Aja's eyes became bloodshot as he asked. Bu Si-dong pointed, oh, that place over there. Without another word, he turned and sprinted away. At least say farewell. Bu Si-dong stilled and then he muttered. The people streamed in. Turtle Island was like an enormous magnet that attracted innumerable numbers of shouja. The shouja that were not willing to leave Cloud Sea Jia only had this one chance. Turtle Island quickly was unable to accommodate so many shouja. Adding on that there were many restricted areas on the island that housed things like the Sun Shan tree. There were too many eyes. If someone recognized it, then it would not be good. Mo decided to rebuild Su Ling City. Originally, Lil Miss planned to use Turtle Island as bait to attract the Mo military. But looking at the flow of people that was continuously coming in, they had to throw out this idea. Fortunately Vermilion Bird Camp, which had the cloud wings and the nimbus clouds, were very mobile and were suited for guerrilla combat. The progress of Su Ling City was very quick. There was a large amount of manpower. Everyone knew that time was tight and worked hard. Presently, Mo was very wealthy. This was the benefit of being the first to stand up against the Mo army. Merchants like Liao Chi-chang who came to Mo in search of protection naturally were willing to also invest. The businesses that were leaving Cloud Sea Jia would donate the things they were unable to transport to Mo. It was a favor, one they might be able to use in the future. When he encountered this kind of situation, Mo accepted them. What? Not easy to move? No matter, I will get people to move it. Those with keen eyes gambled on Mo. Many merchant houses proactively supplied all kinds of aid in the rebuilding of Su Ling City. How many of the merchants, that could survive in the cruel market, have poor insight? Under this kind of situation, Mo's power quickly grew. A strange prosperity appeared around Turtle Island. After finalizing their goal, the people under Mo's command displayed furious battle intent and high morale. This might be the biggest business deal that Mo ever engaged in. His previous business deals were child's play compared to this business deal. When the fighting started, Mo perceptively realized that the enormous opportunity contained in the fighting. Maybe GE was really born to do business. As to what to do after achieving their goal, who knew? Mo was too lazy to think. This really was a great chance, but it was not so simple to grasp it. Fortunately, everything seemed to be progressing smoothly at present. But Mo did not let it go to his head. He judged calmly. He was clear that this inflation in power was like a pile of bubbles. If they could not defeat the Mo army, these bubbles would instantly pop. Looking at the quiet Ague, Mo's restless heart also calmed down. Ague, I'm very sorry. We need to wait for the fighting to finish before we can search for a water cloud embryo, he said apologetically. Ague sat silently and motionlessly. The two stared at each other in silence. Ague, who are you? Gazing at Ague, Mo said quietly. A while later, he lowered his head. His expression was slightly depressed. Who am I? Suddenly a hand reached over and grasped Mo's hand. Mo stilled and raised his hand abruptly. Agui's face was still as wooden as usual, but there was a weak light in the deep reaches of the empty eyes. Ague had moved. This was the first time Ague moved of her accord after she was wounded. For some unknown reason, Mo suddenly felt his heart warm up. This simple move made him feel extremely comfortable and his dejection flew away. Agui's hand was very beautiful. Just like her feet, it did not have one flaw. Other than being slightly cold. Mo gripped Agui's hand back. Thank you, Ague. I object. I also object. Darren, you cannot enter into a dangerous situation, this is too dangerous. Mo looked at the excited group. He had predicted this reaction. Wei Xing did not speak, but it was clear from his expression that he did not agree with Mo's thoughts. He was not the only one. Lil Miss, Shu Long, and the others were shaking their heads. Everyone knew what Mo's safety meant to their troops. If something happened to Mo, this group would likely fall apart instantly. Any suggestion that could cause that situation would receive everyone's opposition. Gradually, people calmed from their excitement. Their eyes landed on Mo. Mo was smiling as usual and did not show an excited expression. Seeing everyone calm down, he slowly opened. I've thought deeply about this. No one spoke. Everyone was waiting for Mo to keep speaking. After interacting with Darren for so long, they also knew it was extremely difficult to change Darren's mind after he made a decision. No one can replace Gongsun Shitty and Vermilion Bird Camp in fighting against the Mo military. The battle style of guard camp is not suited to guerrilla combat. Shu Long's personality is steady and is skilled in defense rather than offense. This time, guard camp's mission is to attack the other's base. I feel that no one is more suited than I am. Seeing someone open their mouth to speak, Mo waved his hand and continued. As for the danger, do not mention it in the future. We are fighting with our backs against the wall, there is no retreat. Unless we want to return to what we were before, Mo looked around and said in a deep voice, are you willing? The audience was completely silent. Before setting their goal, no one had realized this problem and felt it was nothing. But once they set their goal, it was like poking a hole in the umbrella. No one was willing to go back to their previous muddling days. When we made this decision, Zuomo's gaze slowly swept across everyone. Everyone felt a strong pressure. We no longer had the right to fear the consequences. Zuomo's tone was aloof, but these words were like a sharp sword deeply cutting into stone, and engraving themselves into people's hearts. Chapter 514, Thousand-Bird Seal. We have encountered enemy scouts again. This is the 7th group. The vice commander's tone was very calm. The other has a high opinion of us. Oh, Shi Dong made a sound. His posture did not change as he gazed into the distance. His blue eyes were as deep as the ocean. Based on the skill level of these scouts, the enemy is not weak, the vice commander continued. If the others' combat Shio are also at this level, then we will have a tough battle. Oh, Shi Dong was unaffected. We need to be careful of our retreat path being cut off, the vice commander reminded. If our retreat is cut off, then we will be left in a dangerous situation. Shi Dong finally reacted. Did you inform Yiling? Yes, the vice commander nodded and said, Yiling Darren has already spread out the mo grass seeds. In 15 days, these mo grass seeds will germinate. Why was mo seed not used? Shi Dong's tone was calm, but the vice commander who was familiar with him could hear the dissatisfaction in his tone. The vice commander explained, the MOC seed is too expensive. We did not have enough time to prepare. Shi Dong was silent. Mo grass seed was slower to grow than MOC seed. If it was MOC seed, it would form a small mo rearing C, and it would take at least 15 days for mo grass seed to form mo grass C. Compared to the mo rearing C, the mo grass C was a level below in terms of expansion speed and the threat it would pose to enemies. In Bloody Sky Metropolis Jia, the mo had used vast areas of mo rearing C to form a secure defensive line. Even though Shi Dong felt that the MOC seed was more effective, he knew that he could not blame Yiling for this matter. The chaos rifts had appeared so suddenly. Even he had not expected it. From the time the chaos rift appeared to the time that Shi Dong decided to lead the troops to attack, there was only a brief period of time. It was already very difficult for Yiling to have accomplished what he did. Also, he felt the mo grass C was enough to secure their base. Their advance had been so smooth it surpassed Shi Dong's imagination. When he learned of Cloud C Jia's position, he understood why this was the case. This was a little place was remote and unattended to. It lacked powerful sects, did not have unique produce, was poor and desolate, and there were many places that were still unexplored. The successive victories did not give Shi Dong any pleasure. His opponents were too weak. There was nothing to be proud of in these kinds of victories. His only hope now was that the unexplored areas under the Cloud Sea would give him some surprises. Otherwise, taking over such a place could not bring any benefits to his family. Shi Dong was going to get the vice commander to remind Yiling, but thinking about Yiling's personality and how he never made low-level mistakes, he changed the topic. Have you found out yet? What products from Cloud Sea Jia are valuable? Looking at the present, it has some seams of ore, but there is not a large amount, and the grade is not high. The vice commander looked at Shi Dong and then said, but Xiaowu said he felt the presence of mo embryos. Mo embryos. Shi Dong's eyes ignited and for the first time, his tone changed. Yes, mo embryos. Even though he does not know what kind of mo embryo it is, but there definitely are some. You also know, Xiaowu has never been wrong in this matter before. The vice commander's tone was confident. An imperceptible trace of joy appeared in Shi Dong's eyes. Xiaowu was a troop leader under Shi Dong's command and a rare one who cultivated a mo physique. The mo physique that he practiced was called the night-tide snail mo physique. This kind of mo physique did not have strong battle abilities, but it had a special ability, an unusually powerful ability to smell. The vice commander was right. Xiaohua had never been incorrect in this before. Mo embryo. They grew among the flora and wild beasts, and were all kinds of strange shapes. Some lived within wild beasts, other within plants, some were in lifeless areas and appeared like rocks. Even a true Mo like Sherdong found it hard to say what were actually Mo embryos. But this did not stop them from knowing the value of Mo embryos. The greatest use of Mo embryos was to cultivate the Mo physique. There were all kinds of Mo physique and their cultivation methods were as varied and as strange. For example, Sherdong's cold blade Mo physique and Xiaohua's night-tide snail Mo physique were cultivated through their bloodlines. But more Mo physiques were not achieved through bloodlines. Using Mo embryos to cultivate a Mo physique was a common method. This was what the Mo embryos were valued for. If there was Mo embryos here, Sherdong understood. He needed to reassess the value of Cloud Sea Jie. At this time, Sherdong suddenly saw one of his scouts race back in a disheveled state. There were some shocking wounds on his body that were seeping blood. Sherdong's pupils suddenly contracted. "Darren, there is a very well-hidden transportation formation here," Gu Minggong said respectfully. "A merchant house had invited me to build it. Keeping it a secret, the site is very well hidden. This subordinate has put traps into it. If it is destroyed, this subordinate would detect it immediately." Ever since Sui Mo had set the soul-setting divine light in him, Gu Minggong was extremely obedient. If Sui Mo told him to go east, he definitely would not go west. At the beginning, he had been extremely cautious and fearful as though he was on thin ice. As time passed, his terror had mostly dissipated. Sui Mo never limited him on materials and continuously provided rare and valuable materials for him to forge, so he quickly immersed himself into forging. He was unable to get rid of the jinji on his body no matter what he did. As time went on, he could only go with the flow. Fortunately, his days were pretty good. Other than not having freedom, everything else was very good, especially his forging. There was no other place that would give him so many materials to waste. Sui Mo had specifically taken him along on this campaign. One part was that Gu Minggong was a famed Jindan expert, and had combat capabilities. The other point was that Gu Minggong was very familiar with Cloud Sea Jie. He wasn't just familiar with the local transportation formations, he could make his own transportation formations. This was a great help to Sui Mo. Sui Mo might have been provocative and stirring in his words, seeming as though he would fight to the death, but inside, he was still very afraid of death. Under the direction of Gu Minggong, they quickly entered the underground room of the storehouse. As expected, they found a transportation formation. Gu Minggong inspected it to make sure there were not any problems before he activated the transportation formation. Several pieces of 4th grade jingsha were put into the formation. The formation instantly lit up with light. For this sneak attack, Sui Mo really invested greatly. To say of nothing else, just to transport so many people was a shocking expense. The people stepped after each other into the transportation formation. Streaks of light lit up and then they disappeared. The other side of the transportation formation were also in a dark underground storehouse. Gu Minggong made his way familiarly through the basement and led everyone to exit. Everyone suddenly found that the buildings outside were in complete ruins and the formations were completely damaged. "Darren, this is Cloud Watching Ridge." Gu Minggong's expression was not very good. He clearly was shocked by the hellish scene in front of him. Fighting between Xiuzhe was regular and common as eating, but compared to the horrific scene in front of him, that was just playing house. Sui Mo identified Cloud Watching Ridge was the one of the first places that were attacked by the Mo. Even now, they had not found where the Chaos Rift had appeared. They could only use this crude method and slowly search. Only when they found the Chaos Rift would they be able to find the other's base. The other's base definitely was not far from the Chaos Rift. Looking across the landscape, it was a field of debris. Compared to Gu Minggong's loss of composure, Sui Mo was much calmer. He had seen scenes bloodier than this. He turned around and said to Gu Minggong, "Let's start." Gu Minggong took out a paper seal and breathed Ling power onto it. His left hand moved as he chanted. Pew! The paper seal suddenly started to burn and turned into a ball of fire. Psh hiss hiss. Among the flames, a group of nondescript gray birds flew out. There was a large number of them that flapped their wings to fly in all directions and disappeared in a flash. Xu Long and the others looked curiously at this scene. Even Zhuo Mo was interested. In terms of variety of skills, it definitely was the seal Xiu that stood tallest. Their endless variety of moves would always keep people's eyes on them. Noticing Zhuo Mo's gaze, Gu Minggong hurriedly introduced, "Darren, this is the 1,000-bird seal and most suited for searching. However, it is not easy to make and very pricey. It is very practical." Zhuo Mo started to consider if he should outfit guard camp with seals like this. Other than the Mo shadow guard who had shocking speed, guard camp was very average in speed and unsuited to being scouts. The 1,000-bird seals could cover for guard camp's shortcoming to a great degree. But Zhuo Mo was not sure if Xu Long and the others could even use paper cranes. Paper cranes required Ling power, while Xu Long and the others cultivated Mo skills. He requested a paper seal from Gu Minggong and gave it to Xu Long. No matter how Xu Long tried, he was unable to use it. Zhuo Mo could only give up on this tempting idea. As expected, the heavens were fair. It was not realistic to get all the benefits. In the past, guard camp always followed Vermilion Bird Camp. This was the first time they were fighting so far from the main base. Many problems that they had not encountered before were exposed now. Zhuo Mo was suddenly curious. How did the Mo soldiers that were not fast deal with this problem? He ran to ask Wei. Wei explained, the Mo have many ways to solve this problem. For example, some Mo physiques are shockingly fast or they have unique attributes. These kinds of Mo are very powerful as scouts. Some Mo armies would raise Mo insects. They are extremely fast, and can conceal themselves. It is hard for enemies to detect them. Zhuo Mo understood now. The Xiuzha had Xiuzha moves, Yaoma had Yaoma moves. After development through so many years, the systems of Yao, Mo, and Xiu had gradually been perfected. Xiuzha had geniuses, how could all of the Yaoma be stupid? Zhuo Mo also learned from Pu Yao and Wei that the internal conflicts of Yaoma were much crueler than inner conflicts among Xiuzha. The Mo had the fiercest infighting. Zhuo Mo noted down this problem and decided to resolve it when he got back. They waited for about 15 minutes when Gu Minggong, who was standing with his eyes closed, suddenly shuddered. He opened his eyes abruptly, southeast. Zhuo Mo and the others became alert. Without a word, they flew towards the southeast. After flying for about 4 hours, a mountain valley appeared in front of them. As they flashed past the valley, Zhuo Mo's body suddenly froze. Uncontrolled shock came into his eyes. Chapter 515 Dumbstruck Yiling. The black soil stood as a stark contrast, it seemed to have been dyed in ink and was clearly divided from the surrounding soil. Mo grass sea. Weiss' reminder came immediately as they spotted it. Mo grass sea. Zhuo Mo asked in response. Our luck is pretty good. Wei explained, this area has been recently seeded with Mo grass seed. However, the Mo grass seed has not germinated, so I say that our luck is pretty good. It is very powerful. It is not powerful, but after reaching maturity, the expansion rate of Mo grass is astounding. It will spread like a poison and is able to survive on the poorest of soils. Its greatest ability is to absorb the Ling power of the area it grows in. Zhuo Mo inhaled sharply. For Xiuzha, they would face great trouble if there was not any Ling power in the air. This meant that the Xiuzha could only expend the Ling power inside their body and it could not be easily replenished. If they did not have access to special methods, they could only occasionally replenish their Ling power with Jingshi. Ling foods and Ling Dan were more reliable and caused fewer side effects, but this would dramatically inflate the cost and difficulty of supplying the troop. But guard camp cultivates MO skills. Swa MO suddenly reacted. That is why I said our luck is pretty good. Wei's tone was very calm. I feel you should have more confidence in guard camp. The present guard camp is nothing like it was in the past. A cold snort suddenly sounded in Zhuo Mo's mind. It was like the dark and cold hiss of a poisonous snake. It was Pu Yao. How could the clever Pu Yao not hear Wei's insult? Zhuo Mo pretended to not hear it. Only when these two were at odds could he, the fisherman, get the rice. If the two worked together, he could not imagine how he would survive his days. It was lucky that he brought along guard camp. If he had brought Vermilion Bird Camp, he would have been at a great disadvantage. The Mo Grass Sea was ineffective against guard camp. Zhuo Mo's heart rested slightly. The other was very cautious. This could be understood from the area filled with Mo Grass Sea. Did you find the general position of the enemy's base? Zhuo Mo asked Gu Minggong. Gu Minggong shook his head. This patch of black soil is very strange. The 1,000-bird seal cannot fly over it. As expected. This Mo Grass Sea had not finished forming, but its effect on draining Ling power had started to emerge. The gray birds created from the 1,000-bird seal were constructed from Ling power and would be destroyed and they flew into this area. But since they found the Mo Grass Sea, then the other's base was definitely in here. Zhuo Mo thought for a moment and then called for a one. After speaking in a low tone, a one nodded and then his plumed armor fanned out. Whoosh, his body disappeared. A Wen's strength had progressed greatly. He was different from Shu Long and he was training as a lone soldier. His shocking talent caused his rate of improvement to be rapid. Pu Yao and Wei had a rare agreement and praised a Wen's talents. A Wen quickly returned. He came back with the enemy base's general location. Just like Zhuo Mo had thought, as the Mo grass seed had not matured, the other had not established their camp for a long time. Under a Wen's direction, they silently approached the other's base. Yi Ling had a head full of maroon hair, and his gray-white eyes looked extremely deep. The wrinkles on his face ran deep. He had an ordinary birth and no special bloodline. He also lacked talent in cultivating MO skills, but with his outstanding work ethic, he had found a place in the army. Even though he was only in charge of the supplies, this was already very good for him and his family. His working attitude was extremely proactive and industrious. He almost never made mistakes. Over time, he quickly gained a reputation of being capable and trustworthy. Even Sherdong, who had eyes on top of his head, was willing to partner up with him. "Where is Sherdong Darren now?" he asked. "At Grey Cloud Sea Continent. The latest reports say that our scouts have come into contact with Shouja scouts. Many of our scouts have been wounded," the vice commander hurriedly answered. Yi Ling was not very shocked. This is very normal. Shouja are not weak. It would actually be abnormal if they did not react at all to us knocking on their door and killing their people. Darren is right. We need to be careful and prevent others from ambushing us. Yi Ling's expression was grave as he said, "Have the troops on high alert. There are smart people among Shouja, we cannot trip up on flat ground." "Yes." Darren, the vice commander, accepted the order. Suddenly, a howl sounded that almost ruptured Yi Ling's eardrums. The duo's expressions suddenly changed. Someone had mounted a sneak attack on their base. Zhuo Mo's face fell. They had sneaked right up in front of the enemy. If they didn't use this chance to mount a sneak attack, they would be struck by lightning. Yet he had not expected the other's alertness to be higher than he had predicted. He had avoided the other scouts, but the enemy's defenses were extremely thorough and they had been detected anyway. The thing that caused this was an insect the size of a thumb. It was hidden in the soil and was extremely difficult to attack. Something in the black soil under their feet seemed to be shifting. It rapidly advanced toward Zhuo Mo's group. Zhuo Mo was the first to react. His expression changed slightly. Black Leech defense line. Almost in an instant, guard camp finished falling into formation. Vast power came from behind him. The shock and fear inside Zhuo Mo quickly disappeared like snow on a hot day. The great day Mo physique was stimulated and quickly activated. Little Mo kill. Thick black mist shrouded Zhuo Mo's right hand. He raised his hand and slammed it towards the flow of black leeches heading towards them. A black shadow of a hand left his hand. Boom! The flow of black leeches seemed to strike wall and dispersed into countless smaller flows. These slender black flows suddenly made a strange turn in the air and shot back towards Zhuo Mo like black arrows. If it was a normal Xiuzhe, they would have panicked facing such a sudden change. However, Zhuo Mo's group had already seen the power of the Black Leech defense line in Bloody Sky Metropolis Jia and expected that these black leeches were not easy to destroy. At the very front of the large formation, Zhuo Mo did not panic. He was immersed in an unique feeling. There seemed to be unseen threads that were spreading out from his body. Each unseen thread connected to a hardship guard. This hardship guard would also have dozens of thin threads that were connected to other hardship guards. These threads were connecting everyone. Power flowed through these unseen threads, passing through the layers of connections before they gathered on Zhuo Mo's body. An burst of power tightly wrapped around Zhuo Mo. Under the magnification of this power, any normal move would now carry the weight of a mountain. The great Mo physique was unusually active. Every cell in his body seemed to be cheering. Without thinking, Zhuo Mo spread open his fingers and then grasped at the air in the direction of the slender flows of black leeches. Pia! The black leeches in the air suddenly exploded and turned to black mist. Zhuo Mo waved his hand. The mist instantly dissipated. Yet when he saw the now organized Mo army in front of him, Zhuo Mo's expression instantly became grave. His alertness had been raised when they encountered the Black Leech defense line. This was a temporary base, yet the other had set up a Black Leech defense line. To say of nothing else, just the cautiousness of this planning was enough to create a headache for people. The Black Leech defense line did not earn a lot of time for the enemy, but using such a brief amount of time, the other had finished their battle preparations. They were well trained. Just this quality was enough for Zhuo Mo to not dare to underestimate the enemy. Yi Ling appeared extremely calm. He had the same heavy gaze as usual, and did not show any panic. This brought his subordinates great bravery and confidence. Yet what no one knew was that underneath this, Yi Ling was not as calm. His gaze was locked onto the youth at the front of the enemy formation, and his mind was in turmoil. He had seen the entire process that the youth used to defeat the Black Leech defense line. The youth seemed to be very familiar with the Black Leech defense line and had defeated it with confidence. Yi Ling knew that the Black Leech defense line, that he had set up, was very thin, but he never expected the enemy to defeat it this easily. The other didn't seem to be affected by the Mo Grass Sea at all. This was a shock to him. The Mo Grass Sea had not completely formed, but its ability to destroy Ling power was already present. If Xiuzhe entered this area, they would be affected to various degrees. But the other didn't seem to react at all. He was not the only one. Even the subordinates behind him didn't seem to be under any pressure. What was even stranger was the shape of the other's formation. Anyway, he looked at it, Yi Ling found it familiar. Wasn't this the Crow Fiend Mo kill formation of us Mo? The Crow Fiend Mo kill formation wasn't a common thing. Only armies with power would cultivate this domineering and vicious killing formation. Seeing a group of Xiuzhe use the Crow Fiend Mo kill formation of the Mo to defeat the Black Leech defense line of the Mo, Yi Ling was almost dumbstruck where he stood. All hail the king! Who was really the Mo here? Zhuemo took the chance to examine Yiling. What battle formation are they using? Zhuemo secretly asked Wei. I don't recognize it. It probably is a new battle formation that came out after our imprisonment. Wei's brow creased as well. He hoped that he could help Zhuemo gain victory. Only victory could prove that guard camp strength had improved under his guidance. Could someone like Pu Yao compare to Wei? A warm sunny smile came back onto Wei's face as he said with a hint of holy piousness. Do not worry. With the Crow Fiend Mo killing formation that I taught as well as your Great Day Mo physique, we can flatten them. Oh, there was really nothing to be done, it was Wei, that taught little Zhuemo his Great Day Mo physique. There was really nothing to be done, there was really nothing to be done. Little Poo. The light of Wei, will burn you with my radiance. Wei's smile became even more holier and warmer. In the 10-finger prison, Pu Yao suddenly raised his head. The corner of his eyes twitched. There seemed to be a vast ocean of blood howling and roaring in his bloody eye. Nan Yu and the others trembled. A moment later, Pu Yao's cold voice squeezed out from between his teeth. 1 month. If you cannot achieve this in 1 month, there is a good place waiting for you. The scalps of Nan Yu and the others prickled as they fled in panic. Chapter 516, To Cross Sword. Shi Dong looked coldly at the Shuzha scouts that were roaming nearby. Starting from the first day of contact, the fighting between the two side scouts never stopped. The scouts were the elite of an army. The fighting was short yet fierce, ending in serious wounds if not death. Shi Dong did not feel surprised. He had spent many years in the military, and his heart was as hard as stone. The conflict between scouts were the prelude to a battle and he had confidence in his men. These scouts had followed him for many years. Each one of them had been promoted based on their merit and service. Yet the development of the situation still shocked him greatly. In 3 short days, 27 elite scouts had been wounded or killed. Even with a rock-solid heart, Shi Dong felt a hint of coldness. The number of wounded and dead spoke to the violence of battle. But pitting their scouts against the enemy scouts, the other had sustained an insignificant number of wounds and fatalities. Shi Dong's gaze grew colder. Shi Dong understood. They had encountered a great enemy. However, this did not cause him to feel nervousness and uncertainty. It was the exact opposite. Under his icy expression, the battle intent in his mind was like the hidden turbulence under the thick layer of ice that was slowly rippling. The vice commander looked at the Shuzha scouts roaming at the surroundings. Even now, he couldn't quite believe it that his scouts were defeated. Does Cloud Sea Jia really have such a powerful battalion? He murmured to himself in a voice filled with disbelief. At the start when they entered Cloud Sea Jia, they hadn't know anything, but as they gathered together information, Cloud Sea Jia became clear in their eyes. Nothing had mentioned that Cloud Sea Jia had such a powerful battalion. The battalions they had defeated before had battalions that ranked in the top 10 of Cloud Sea Jia, but compared to this mysterious battalion, they weren't even worth mentioning. Was this battalion the strongest battalion of Cloud Sea Jia, the Nashan battalion? Shi Dong did not speak. There was no meaning in trying to guess the origins of this battalion. In his eyes, there was only victory. He was not concerned at all with the other's name or history. The enemy scouts had created a dense net. Their scouts could not leave. Subsequently, the amount of information that reached Shi Dong decreased. This feeling was terrible. He seemed to be trapped in quicksand and any struggle was useless. The other did not seem to be in a hurry to attack. Other than these scouts that stuck to them like glue, the other's primary force did not show themselves. Suddenly, Shi Dong's mind shifted. He recalled Turtle Island. Was this battalion Turtle Island Battalion? The information on Turtle Island Battalion was almost non-existent. There was only scattered mentions in the information they gathered, and that was just about a small conflict. Thinking about Turtle Island's recent reputation, and this mysterious battalion that suddenly appeared, Sherdong instantly made the connection between the two. So this was how it was. Gazing at the scouts, Sherdong gripped the mantis blade at his waist tightly. The other was dragging it out for time. Yes. The other was trying to make time. But why were they trying to drag for time? Sherdong's thought became clearer. The other needed time, they were waiting for something. Were they waiting for Turtle Island's defenses to be completed? It was not so simple. This short contact could not be said to be a conflict, but Sherdong could smell the danger level of the other's battle general. An expert. The other's aims definitely were not so simple. Also, defending Turtle Island was not a very good idea. Was it? Sherdong's heart suddenly jumped. He turned around abruptly. Inquire about Yi Ling's situation. Immediately. Frightened by his commanding officer's moves, the vice commander stilled for a moment before reacting. Yes. He took out a black insect on his hand and cut his finger. With a flick, a drop of blood entered the forehead of the insect. The insect started to fade in his hand at a visible rate until it disappeared. Time slowly passed, but the insect never came back. The vice commander's expression changed. As expected. Sherdong, whose expression did not change, had his suspicions confirmed. He had just been speculating on the other's intentions, now he was definitely sure. Have we brought along any mo grass seed? Sherdong suddenly asked about something completely unconnected. Yes, the vice commander reflexively answered. Sherdong gripped the mantis blade at his waist. He raised his head against the wind. The blue cap that represented the sky mantis flapped in the wind. The ocean-like eyes suddenly gave off a sharp light. It was as though he drew out the mantis blade that was sheathed at his waist. His body was filled with the determination to advance. Our target is Turtle Island, advance at full speed. The other was not easy to fool. Gongsun Cha hadn't expected this Mo army to suddenly accelerate without warning. It formed a perfect assault battle formation and headed straight for Turtle Island like a sharp blade. Without a doubt, the enemy battle general had detected his aims. The counterattack was expected, but it was unusually strong. The great majority of people in this situation would turn back to act as reinforcements if their retreat was cut off. Yet this Mo army did the opposite and advanced at an accelerated rate. It was a decision filled with bravery. Even though the two were enemies, Gongsun Cha could not help himself from sighing in praise. The other was forcing him into a final battle. If the other reached Turtle Island, even if he could win, the number of fatalities would reach a terrifying number. Turtle Island's defenses were very strong, but Turtle Island itself could not hold that many Xioja. Su Ling City had not finished rebuilding, and the defenses were next to nothing. If this was any other time, Gongsun Cha would not hesitate to use these people to trade for a victory. But given the situation right now, a ruined cloud siege was not of any benefit for them. Even Gongsun Cha, who was only interested in being a battle general, could understand a concept as shallow as this. Actually, when Zuemo had said the words at the time, Lil Miss had been very surprised. But if there had to be one person that he would support unconditionally, there was only Zuemo. As to whether Shixiang's decision was correct, the obstacles they faced, and what consequences there were, it was not within the realm of his consideration. The only thing he would use his mind for, to scheme for, was victory. You want a final battle? Lil Miss' eyes flashed with an insane light. The shadow formed by the bangs at the front of his face seemed to cover his entire face. Then come. His mouth unconsciously curved in a smile that was as bashful as usual. Can we win? Bu Xidong's sweat was running in rivers down his face. The exhaustion caused his voice to gasp. They had just experienced an abnormally difficult session of training. Almost all the strength in their bodies had been squeezed out. This really was demonic cultivation. Before this, no one had ever heard of training like this. They didn't even dare think of this. Even with the great benefits, they were full of groans and complaints. Some people had even planned on running away. But ever since those few that ran away were captured and thrown into the sword formation, the wails that occurred daily caused all of Black Marshal Camp to feel their scalps prickle. Ma Fan had found experts from Golden Crow Camp to set up 50 sword formations that were placed right beside the campsite. Every day when they trained, they could clearly hear the inhuman screams coming out of the sword formation. Everyone settled down. Bu Xidong never thought of running away. He didn't have any talent, but he could endure hardship. In reality, the potential of a person was greater than they themselves realized. These people were starting to adjust to this terrifying level of training. The departure of Vermilion Bird Camp and Guard Camp could be concealed from other people but not from Black Turtle Camp that was adjacent to Vermilion Bird Camp. Everyone knew the counterattack had started. When they had the time, they would discuss the situation. They probably can. The one who spoke was called Luo Wei. He was a sword xiao and had a natural advantage in the camp. He was also the primary attacker of their small team. However, Luo Wei's tone did not hold much confidence. I want us to be able to participate. Didn't we come just to fight against the Mo army? Just hiding here and training every day, it is so irritating. De Ban couldn't help but mutter from the side. He had a pair of conspicuous front teeth. He was unusually proud of them and wouldn't think of using Ling power to modify them. Consequently, everyone called him De Ban. Luo Wei said without raising his head, if Vermilion Bird Camp and Guard Camp cannot win, then we aren't even enough for a mouthful. Before, I felt I was strong, now I know how laughable that idea was. Everyone became silent. Luo Wei was right. At the beginning, there were many rebellious people, but after training for a few days, they finally understood how great the difference was between themselves and Vermilion Bird Camp. Who do you think is stronger, Guard Camp or Vermilion Bird Camp? Bu Xidong saw everyone was silent and hurriedly said. Does it need to be said? Of course it is Vermilion Bird Camp. De Ban said without thinking. Everyone's interests were stirred by this topic and spoke up. I also feel it is Vermilion Bird Camp. Vermilion Bird Camp. Ma Fan Darren is too strong. Those animals from Vermilion Bird Camp are not human. All of them supported Vermilion Bird Camp. Compared to Guard Camp that had never showed its face, they had a direct experience with the strength of Vermilion Bird Camp. Some of them even felt that there wasn't a stronger battalion than Vermilion Bird Camp in the world. Bu Xidong noticed that Luo Wei did not speak. He couldn't help but ask, Luo Wei, what do you feel? I don't know, Luo Wei stopped what he was doing, but I feel that since Guard Camp can rank together with Vermilion Bird Camp, it must have its strengths. When he spoke, he suddenly recalled when he had seen a person from Guard Camp the other day. The other person just glanced at him, and he felt all the blood in his body freeze. This incident had given him a deep impression. He was preparing to tell everyone about the incident when Ma Fan Darren's serene voice came like a ghost out of the ground. You've rested long enough, prepare for the next part of training. Everyone instantly jumped up as though something had bitten their behinds and sprinted towards the field. Ma Fan's figure slowly floated out of the air as he looked into the distance. This really was so troublesome. And he was missing such a spectacular battle. Chapter 517 Who is the MO here? Yi Ling's position was quartermaster, it was his primary duty, but he was not unfamiliar with battle. In truth, in the MO military, people who could not fight were unable to survive. The MO respected power. From childhood, they were taught the philosophy of fighting and its unparalleled and ultimate status. Status, wealth, MO skills, the hopes of the clan and others, all of them had to be earned through fighting prowess. This was a long battle that began in youth, a life that was cruel and filled with blood. Those that could survive this battle and achieve something were the elite of the Mo. Yi Ling was that kind of elite. Even if he was just a quartermaster, even if it had been many years since he last fought, this kind of instinct would not degrade. The other's Mo-esque style of fighting shocked him, but he quickly recovered his calmness. His years of experience in the military allowed him to face anything calmly. His preferred position as he commanded differed from Zhuo Mo. His position was at the center of the battle formation. For Mo this was a rare position to stand in. Mo revered directness and brute force. Their battle generals usually stood at the front of the battle formation, as the tip of the blade. This could maximize the amount of strength they gathered from the entire battalion to unleash the strongest attack. That was where Zhuo Mo was standing. Yi Ling couldn't help but feel slight strangeness. As a true-blooded Mo, his position was not like the Mo but more similar to the Yao and the Xioja. The enemy was clearly a Xioja, but what he used was a conventional Mo battle style. Who really was the Mo here? This absurd thought flashed through his mind. He quickly refocused his attention. Threads of power responded to him. Everything in the surroundings suddenly became unprecedentedly clear. A feeling of strength grew quickly in his mind. Such a familiar feeling. Strangely, he felt emotional. The battle spirit in his blood had remained cold for many years, but now the excitement of his youth was reawakened. His eyes became misty black. Like a ball of mist, his figure disappeared in the air. Almost at the same time, every Mo soldier under his command had their eyes turn red as though they were dyed in fresh blood. Silently, murderousness grew. Mist hand seat. The holy smile on Wei's face suddenly froze and he showed shock. What is that? Zhuo Mo didn't dare to be careless. In a flash, the enemy troop suddenly seemed to inflate. The murderousness made him feel great pressure. A very interesting Mo skill. Pu Yao's voice suddenly inserted, but his tone was full of undisguised schadenfreude. I and Little Wei encountered this in the past. TSK, I really miss that time. Pu Yao dragged out the sound as he smacked his lips. He really appeared to be reminiscing about the past. Little Wei. Wei's smile became increasingly forced. Hearing Pu Yao's words, Zhuo Mo suddenly had a bad feeling. It's very powerful. Powerful? The corners of Pu Yao's lips rose slightly as he shook his head. No. It isn't powerful, but it is very interesting. Ha! As though he seemed to recall something, Pu Yao roared with laughter. The laughter that was furious and as sharp as blades echoed in Zhuo Mo's sea of consciousness. Wei's expression became increasingly terrible. Zhuo Mo's bad feeling grew. Had they encountered a difficult enemy? I wonder how Yi Ling Darren is right now. The vice commander was full of worry. The other has gambled on Yi Ling Darren, and the troop they sent definitely would not be weak. The vice commander's nagging had caused Shi Dong's patience to finally reach its end. He impatiently interrupted, you don't need to worry for Yi Ling. But... Seeing the worry on his vice commander's face, Shi Dong thought and decided to say something. Do not underestimate Yi Ling. What he cultivates is the mist hand seat. Ah! The vice commander was shocked and his mouth was gaped so wide an egg could be shoved through it. After a long while, his mind refocused. He stammered out a question. Mist hand seat. Heavens! Yi Ling Darren actually cultivates mist hand seat. A military officer that was the quartermaster who cultivated the mist hand seat, this was insane. Shi Dong was silent for a moment. He suddenly said nonsensically, it is a pity, if only he also cultivated the mist Mo physique. The vice commander paused again, but this time, he understood. Shi Dong suddenly raised his head. His blue eyes narrowed slightly and his hand went to the mantis blade at his waist. Looking down from the sky, the entire Mo army seemed to stop without any warning. The entire process was carried out like clockwork, in sync and unified without any confusion. In front of them, a troop was silently floating in the air. Shi Dong gripped the handle of the mantis blade, his expression was icy and his back straight as he slowly walked towards the front. With every step, his presence increased. When he reached to the front of the formation, he was like an unsheathed sword, the sharp edges exposed to the air without any reservation. The mantis blade was unsheathed, pointing forward. When Gong Sun Cha saw Shi Dong's action, his lips couldn't help but curl up. Without any warning, his peaceful eyes suddenly began to boil. The shy and bashful smile suddenly held a thread of craziness and undisguised admiration. The other dared to advance alone after detecting his intentions and aimed straight at Turtle Island. Just this action was enough to win Lil Miss respect. When the opponent realized Vermilion Bird Camp's advantage in speed, the other advanced at full speed without holding anything in reserve. This action that seemed reckless had greatly weakened Vermilion Bird Camp's advantage of fighting on home ground. It forced Vermilion Bird Camp into an early battle with him. This was a pretty good opponent. The wind blew the fine bangs at his forehead. Under the excitement and pleasure of facing a matching opponent, Gong Sun Cha's neck turned red. His consciousness spread like a net. Let's start. Missed hand seat. Zhua Mo didn't have the time to ask further when Yi Ling had started to attack. Whoosh! A ball of mist exploded within the Mo army and grew rapidly. In a flash, it spread out and covered the sky. Thousands of Mo soldiers were quickly swallowed by the grey mist and disappeared without a trace. The grey mist roiled restlessly as though an enormous monster was moving inside. Zhua Mo was on his guard. Pu Yao and Wei's reactions right now proved that the enemy was powerful. But as the battle began, Zhua Mo threw all other thoughts to the back of his head. He stared at the grey mist as though he was staring at prey. Viciousness shone in Zhua Mo's eyes. Focused on fighting, Zhua Mo did not have any more terror or hesitation. It might have been the stimulation from Pu Yao and Wei that Zhua Mo's attention was exceedingly focused. The power of the great Mo physique was yearning to go inside his body while his Ling power and consciousness were circulating on their own. After cultivating Shen power, the connection between the three powers grew closer and moving one would activate and pull everything along. But Zhua Mo's attention was not on his own body. His attention was focused all behind him. He seemed to be standing inside a void with 2,000 candle flames behind him, each was a star. Every hardship guard was like wisp of candle flame. They pulsed along with the rhythm of his own heart. The two brightest flames should be Shu Long and A One. Zhua Mo seemed thoughtful. 2,000 candle flames pulsed to the same beat. The threads of power gathered between them. Power and killing essence was continuously added. Zhua Mo felt his body was like an inflated balloon filled with dark killing intent and destructive power. They continuously beat against his mind. Kill! Zhua Mo's roar carried a thread of pain as he slapped towards the ball of black mist. Kill! The hardship guards shouted angrily and attacked at the same time. The black smoke condensed from killing essence gathered at Zhua Mo's right pal as though it was the rivers flowing into the ocean. The day script on Zhua Mo's right palm suddenly activated. It wasn't the usual blinding golden light but a terrifying dark red. Day script palm. Whoosh hiss. The sharp howl sounded in all directions. The moment the dark red day script left Zhua Mo's hand, it furiously pulled at the air and all the Ling power within 10 li. The air seemed to be dyed with a layer of red and the temperature of the air shot up. Day script palm. Great Mo physique. Yi Ling was so shocked he almost shouted. Zhua Mo was completely ignorant of Mo skills and Mo physiques, but as a true-blood Mo, Yi Ling was familiar with all kinds of famous Mo physiques. When he saw this dark red day script, he almost went insane. The Crow Fiend Mo kill formation, standing in the position of that Mo withstanding, people unaffected by the Mo grass seed, these all shocked him. But when he saw this day script, he completely turned into chaos. All hail the king! Day script palm, this really was the day script palm. Great day mo physique, ranking second in kernel mo physiques. Day script palm, one of the 6 transformations of the Great Day mo physique. But, wasn't the Great Day mo physique something only mo with the highest of bloodlines could cultivate? When were even Shouja able to cultivate the Great Day mo physique? Was it now fashionable for Shouja to cultivate mo physiques? Who really was the mo here? Wait. Mo, unless the other was mo as well. Yi Ling was astounded at this daring and crazy idea that popped up. He seemed to be struck by lightning. Mo. Yes, the opponent was mo. Only mo could cultivate the mo physique. Yi Ling always paid attention to news from the front lines. They had never discovered any Shouja that cultivated the mo physique. The only things similar to the mo physique were the Diana Shio of the Shouja, but the two had innate differences. He was 10,000% sure this was the Great Day mo physique, and this Great Day mo physique that had been cultivated to an extremely high level. The cultivation difficulty of the Great Day mo physique was just as famous and terrifying as its ranking among kernel-level mo physiques. Its 6 transformations were even harder to cultivate. This definitely was not any Dana technique. The dark red day script pulled at all kinds of energies within 10 li. Even fine black smoke that were like razors were layered by the purest of mo killing essence. Yes, he had not seen it wrong. Yi Ling was frightened by his own thinking. Mo. Mo that had been lost in Shouja territories. Lost in the Shouja world, possessing the highest bloodline, mo that tried to create mo army. Oh, all hail the king. Chapter 518, All Hail the King. The dark red day script howled as it reached him almost instantaneously. It really was the day script palm. At such a crucial time, Yi Ling did not feel any fear from being hit but instead felt extremely excited. Day script palm. Great Day mo physique. All hail the king. His vision sudden became slightly blurred as a daring and insane idea revolved in his mind. He was extremely excited, but his strong mind had been tempered through many battles showed in his unwavering spirit. He tightly gritted his teeth and channeled his mo skill to its limits. The other's skill in the day script palm was very profound, but in his view, the other's battle formation was still slightly lacking. This was his chance, and the only opportunity he could exploit. Otherwise, with the Great Day mo physique working with the Crow Fiend mo kill formation, his Mist Hand seat and the Skynet combat formation had no chance of victory. In his view, it was logical that a descendant of a noble Missouri lineage lost in the Shouja world to be lacking in their understanding of mo battle formations. The cultivation of the mo physique could be reached through talent and mo skills, but battle formations could only mature through experience in the military. The gray mist suddenly shot out many thin chains made from gray mist, like tentacles. They were sharks that smelt blood and furiously flooded towards the intimidating day script. Pia pia pia. The gray mist tentacles had not even neared the day script when they were crushed by the powerful presence of the day script and exploded. As expected of the legendary Great Day mo physique. Yi Ling's eyes grew bright within the gray mist. Strangely, there was joy on his face. The gray mist tentacles shot at the day script at an even faster rate. The tentacles were densely packed and seemed endless. Explosions rang out, but the number of gray mist tentacles were even more numerous, as though there was no end to them. Pia pia pia. The gray mist from every destroyed tentacle would be dispersed by the day script. Looking from afar, it seemed as the day script was continuously consuming the gray mist tentacles. Yi Ling methodically controlled every strand of gray mist. He quickly started to show tiredness. He was filled with shock. He found he had underestimated the other's skill in the Great Day mo physique. This was the deep mo layer. This was definitely the Great Day mo physique at the deep mo layer, only then could it have such domineering power. A great Mo physique in the deep Mo layer. Once this idea came into his mind, he couldn't help but shudder. Such an outstanding Mo. In any of the Mo Jia, he definitely would be a genius unable to be dismissed. He was so young, so filled with talent, and had such a limitless future. To be able to create a Mo army in the Xiuzhou world, he must be stubborn and resilient, determined and persistent. He couldn't dare think of the hardships involved. All hail the king. Heavens, are you trying to make it up to your servant for being unable to cultivate the Mist Mo physique, by delivering such a great opportunity in front of me? All of Yi Ling's composure flew away. However, he had to first deal with what was in front of him. Yi Ling forced himself to calm down. He was unable to cultivate the Mist Mo physique and he could only withstand this attack through the power of the battle formation. Sharp howls suddenly rang out from within the grey mist. Countless crescent-shaped mist blades suddenly flew out of the mist like a tsunami. They drew out strange curves in the air and shot at the day script that was incoming. Looking down from the sky, this scene was spectacular. Like whips, the grey mist tentacles shot out in ruler straight lines, shooting out like spears. The deep howling as they cut through the air caused people's minds to waver. Boom boom boom. But the day script was still unstoppable. No matter if it was the grey mist tentacles or the crescent mist blades, they exploded once they got near. But even so, the attacks continued each like a thunderous raindrop and managed to push back the day script. The grey mist tentacles and the crescent-shaped mist blades were coming increasingly close to the day script. Within the grey mist, every Mo soldier was releasing their own attacks at the fastest possible rate. When each attack was released, it would be shrouded in a layer of grey mist. They did not need to control the direction of the attack, they only had to release attacks at the fastest possible rate. Boom! A crescent-shaped mist blade heavily struck the day script. The attacks that came after slammed the day script like a storm. The day script finally could not stand up and exploded. All the energies within 10 li pulsed along with this huge explosion. Among the grey mist were sounds of panting. Every Mo soldier had a face full of shock. This was just the first round of the enemy's attack. Sui Mo frowned. The other's battle method was very strange. Was this the so-called mist hand seat? However, this mist hand seat was strange but he did not feel it was powerful. He was not so arrogant to think that he could defeat the other in one blow. He felt his body was full of energy that could not be used up. He was filled with the desire to fight. Come on, baby! He shouted inside. He hasn't cultivated the Mist Mo physique, no wonder he is so weak. Pu Yao was greatly disappointed. He had felt the other could give way a shock but hadn't expected it to be damaged goods. He was full of disappointment. In a blink, the duo's positions had switched. Wei's pious smile came back on. Yes, such a pity. Hearing the exchange between the two, Zhua Mo twisted his lips. The power of the Crow Fiend Mo kill formation filled every corner of his body. His excitement activated the great Mo physique to its limits, his excitement caused him to turn into a battle maniac. He was like a lion with bloodshot eyes that wanted to charge and tear the enemy into pieces. Come on, baby! Overexcited, a strange blade that seemed to burn in flame appeared in Zhua Mo's hand. Vast power flowed through his arm into the midday blade in his hand. Whoosh, the golden flames suddenly jumped up high. At the same time, the great day banded flame inside Zhua Mo's body uncontrollably sprouted out. Shrouded completely in golden flames, Zhua Mo held a blade that was also covered in golden flames. Zhua Mo was immersed into excitement. The midday blade was raised up high. Behind him, all the hardship guards raised up the Mo weapons in their hands. Each Mo weapon was shrouded in black mist. If this strike landed, it could tear apart the sky. Zhua Mo was like a bloodthirsty lion that stared at the roiling grey mist. Sire, please wait a moment. Within the mist, a hurried voice suddenly passed out. Swayamo stilled. A middle-aged person dressed in grey robes walked out of the grey mist. He possessed a pair of grey eyes that looked extremely deep. He walked along to the front of the formation and bowed to Swayamo. "Sir, I am the commander of this troop. We surrender." "What? Surrender? What sort of intergy joke was this?" Swayamo felt as though he was having problems with his hearing. Surrender? Hadn't the fight just begun? The person in front had a respectful expression and was extremely polite. He looked very normal. Mo military surrendering to Shouja? Was there something wrong with his brain? The suddenly surrender, or rather, the battle general's polite, respectful and sincere surrender forced every bit of Swamo's burning battle spirit back inside. "Sir, please allow us to surrender to you. We are willing to swear our allegiance to Darren." Yi Ling's voice was deep and hoarse, carrying sincerity that even an idiot could detect. The Mo soldiers behind him shifted. I. Forced back, Mo felt as though something was blocking him from speaking. In reality, he still held the midday blade up ready to strike. It was only his thoughts that seemed to be frozen in wax. To surrender to someone that cultivates the great Mo physique, this is our honor. Please allow us to follow behind Darren, we are willing to burn our lives for Darren to command. Darren's commands are our honor. Yi Ling humbly bowed deeply. All hail the king. Hearing the words, great Mo physique, the restless Mo army suddenly stilled. Immediately after, uncontrolled joy shone on many of their faces. Moments later, all the Mo soldiers bowed and shouted in unison. All hail the king. Everyone behind Mo was stunned by this scene. Even the mature and composed Shu Long looked on with a dazed stare at the Mo army and was unable to make a sound. The lively A Wen's mouth was gaping. He looked as though he had seen a ghost. The worst off was Gu Minggong. He was in complete chaos as he murmured to himself, "Illusion, this must be an illusion, is this a trick? Has Darren sent someone to pretend to be a Mo? Was this a trick from the start, this old man, which motherfucking Jia is this?" Everyone behind Mo turned to stone. Even Pu Yao and Wei were almost driven slightly insane by the scene in front of them. Are they really a Mo? When did the Mo become this spineless? Pu Yao looked at Yi Ling as though he wanted to pluck out Yi Ling's soul and examine it. Degeneration. This is degeneration. Wei howled. He felt discomfort as though he swallowed a fly. This guy was a neat freak. But the one feeling the most discomfort was Mo. His spirit had never burned like this before, never had such fighting spirit, never had been as impulsive as this. It all stopped and he had to suppress it. Mo's frozen face first turned pale and turned red. Energy flowed up, and his face was so red as though blood could start dripping out at any moment. "Big bro, you're messing with me." A moment later, Mo could only wail inside helplessly. But the other's attitude was sincere, humble, and the tone as well as polite. No matter how suppressed the fighting spirit was, he could not vent it. Face flushed from suppressing it, Mo could not swallow the breath or breath out. He didn't manage to say a word at all. The exciting battlefield suddenly sank into a strange silence. Yi Ling's battalion still maintained their bows motionlessly. They were like a group of statues. Not one Mo soldier moved. A light of unusual determination flashed on everyone's face. Great Mo physique. That was the great Mo physique of legend. Only Mo that had the most noble bloodlines and unparalleled talent could cultivate this kind of Mo physique. This kind of Mo possessed the potential to become king. Every Mo soldier seemed to see the great path shining in front of them. All hail the king. Chapter 519, On the Same Path. Complete silence. A complete and deathly silence. Everyone started to recover from the initial shock, especially Shu Long and his group. Even though this incident had occurred so suddenly and was so implausible, it had happened in front of him. Everyone looked at Suemo. Many people couldn't help but sigh inside, as expected of Darren. Suemo could not pay attention to them so much. His spirit was suppressed almost to the point of causing an internal injury. It took great effort to calm the energies roiling inside of him. But as more and more gazes looked at him, he felt he needed to display more of the mannerisms of a boss. He straightened and coughed lightly. In the silence, it was unusually clear. He frightened himself. Yi Ling and the others suddenly became alert, their expressions even more respectful. I say, this. When Zuoyamo started to speak, the presence of a boss instantly dissipated. You guys want to pledge allegiance to me? Yes, Darren. Yi Ling's response was clean and crisp. Why? Zuoyamo asked curiously. His question attracted everyone's attention. Truthfully, no one understood what was going on. Darren has the potential to become king, Yi Ling unhesitatingly replied. Everyone liked hearing flattery. Zuoyamo was not an exception. He instantly gave a smile. You have pretty good eyes, you managed to find me when I am hiding so deeply. Gu Mingdong, who just recovered, suddenly had a strange expression. But when he glanced around and saw the seriousness on Shu Long and the other people's faces, he intelligently suppressed his impulse to laugh. Shu Long, and the others threw gazes of praise at Yi Ling. As Zuomo's core troop and most loyal subordinates, Guard Camp was completely loyal to Zuomo. They originated as Shouja slaves. Compared to the old-timers of Vermilion Bird Camp, they were less skilled in the ways of social interaction and did not understand the customs of the Shouja world. Their thinking was simpler and even purer. In their minds, Zuomo was the most outstanding, powerful, and wisest Darren in the world. Even if Zuomo told them to jump into a fire pit, they would jump in together without any hesitation. In their minds, they only existed for Zuomo. Gu Mingdong felt Yi Ling was only giving platitudes, but Shu Long and the others did not think so. To be able to recognize Darren's strength in such a short amount of time, this guy had pretty good eyes. Unconsciously, Guard Camp's collective opinion of Yi Ling shot up. Yi Ling's words caused Zuomo to float and feel as though he was an immortal. The incident of almost getting internal injury just now was forgotten immediately. He grinned to the point his eyes were narrow lines. His face bloomed like a flower. Potential to become king. Oh ho, tell me, slowly, in detail. Yes. Darren. Yi Ling thought that Zuomo was testing his abilities. He collected his thought with the utmost seriousness before he opened. Darren is young and has cultivated the great Mo physique. In all of the Mo world, Darren could be called a genius. Situated in such a dangerous place, Darren was able to create such a powerful army and create such a situation. Darren has the signs of being a wise leader that can survive these troubled times. Only Darren, who is strong, has talent, a resilient personality, and also one with great foresight, might become king. Shu Long and the others nodded and exchanged looks. As they communicated through their eyes, they showed expressions of agreement. Shrunken in the corner, Gu Mingdong was gaping. As he looked at the smug Zuomo, he felt this was impossible. The person speaking was serious, the person being praised was also serious. There was no flattery, no insincerity. It was terribly sincere and honest conversation. But the clever Gu Mingdong opened his mouth a few times, but could not produce a word. Oh, it was a pity that eldest Shixiang and Gongsun Shidi were not present. He had forgotten, he should have recorded it with a jade scroll. Extremely happy, Zuomo instantly felt regret. This was one of those rare chances to grow face. He wanted everyone to see this. Finally struggling out of his regret, Zuomo smacked his lips with lingering hunger and coughed pretentiously. Oh, all right. However, we need to be low-key, low-key. No wonder Darren was able to survive in the Shoujo world until now and had even amassed such a group. He really understood the way of concealment. Yi Ling said with sincere reverence, "Yes, Darren." Having heard the flattery and having enjoyed it, Suemo felt that leaving like this was not fair. He thought and then said, "Oh, since you have such sincerity, then from today onwards, you are Grey Camp. Xu Long will temporarily lead the camp, you will be the vice commander." Yi Ling was overjoyed. "Thank you Darren for bestowing the name. But from today onwards, you have to take note and not reveal your identity as Mo," Suemo reminded Yi Ling. "Yes." Yi Ling was full of admiration. Darren was extremely meticulous. He turned his head and spoke a few words. The entire Mo army changed their expressions. The Mo that could enter the Mo military all was of relatively strong strength and changing appearances were not hard for them. However, the Mo's sense of beauty was far different than Shoujo. They preferred more rough and powerful appearances. Then Yi Long greeted Xu Long and the others had been Shoujo slaves and oppressed by Shoujo for a long time. They did not like Shoujo but did not have any bad feelings about Mo. Yi Ling's words just now had won their good opinion. Xu Long and the others felt as though Yi Ling spoke what they all thought. A feeling of walking on the same path rose. Xu Long said solemnly, "I will treat Grey Camp fairly, everyone work hard." "Yes." Yi Ling was full of excitement. Accidentally recruiting Grey Camp caused Suemo's sneak attack journey to end in a strange manner, but in all, he had still accomplished his objectives. Under the efforts of Guard Camp and Grey Camp, they quickly began setting up a new base at the Chaos Rift. Compared to the crude base that Yi Ling had, the scale of the new base was astounding. However, the Mo grass sea was still uprooted. This was really too eye-catching. At this time, Yi Ling suddenly came to find Suemo. "Darren," Yi Ling said with hesitation. "What is it?" Suemo asked. "Darren, please permit me to persuade Sherdong Darren to surrender." Yi Ling gritted his teeth and said with determination. "Sherdong." Suemo stilled and then he reacted. "You mean the other Mo army?" "Yes, Darren," Yi Ling hurriedly said. "Sherdong Darren was this subordinate's previous commander." "Oh, tell me about him." Suemo's interest was stirred. Sherdong Darren is born from a rare branch of the Mantis Mo called the Sky Mantis Mo. Sherdong Darren is the most outstanding battle general this subordinate has ever seen. He is resilient and determined, extremely perceptive in battle. If he was not limited by his birth as a Mantis Mo, his accomplishments would not be limited to just so. "How is he compared to you?" Suemo asked curiously. Yi Ling's missed hand seat had left him a deep impression. "This subordinate is inferior," Yi Ling said seriously. "This subordinate has always served as Sherdong Darren's quartermaster." "So that's how it is." Suemo instantly had the feeling he was making a great profit and hurriedly nodded. "Then you can try." Yi Ling was overjoyed. "Yes." Smoke wafted off Sherdong's body. His grand cape was no torn and dirted, his body covered in wounds of various sizes. He also had a tired expression. Beside him, there were only half of the organized troops that remained and all of them carried wounds. Sherdong had not expected the other to be so powerful. Thinking about these nightmarish days of battle, his heart couldn't help but shudder. The enemy battle general was too powerful. Other than at the beginning when the two were at a standoff, Sherdong had been forced to watch as the balance of battle slowly tilted towards the enemy. A slow yet resolute tilt. He had tried all the solutions he could think of but was still unable to stop the tilt. The other had suppressed them completely and did not give them any faults to use. He had never thought he would encounter such a terrifying opponent. Was this the legendary Xue Dong from Kunlun? Or Tian Huan's Gongye Xiaorong? Wasn't this Cloud Sea Jie? Wasn't this a remote little place that four-realm heaven disdained to enter? How could such a peerless battle general be here? A golden battle general. Only a golden battle general could suppress him to the point of hopelessness. Shi Dong was just a step away from becoming a gold battle general. If it wasn't for his Mantis Mo bloodline, maybe he would be a gold battle general already. Since a very early point in his life, he had rarely encountered a match for himself. He never lacked confidence when directing battle. But this time, looking at the small groups of 3 and 5 sword shio that were nearby in the sky, he bit down on his lips with a pale face. Just at this moment, a gasp of shock came from his vice commander. He suddenly turned around his face with a sword-sharp gaze. But when he saw the black insect in the vice commander's hand, he suddenly froze. A good opponent, Lil Miss' voice was full of praise. No one dismissed his words. The hardiness of this troop far surpassed their expectations. Even though Vermilion Bird Camp had quickly gotten the advantage, the others still withstood their assault. Even though they could not stop the rising tide, the collapse in morale that people predicted had not occurred. Even fighting to now with only half of their battalion left, their morale was still shocking steady. If this was a normal battalion, they would have crumbled long ago. This kind of enemy was worthy of being respected. Ever since Lil Miss created his own core scripture, his consciousness expanded rapidly by the day. His last shortcoming disappeared. Lil Miss, who had been strong to start with, had become extremely terrifying, unusually and abnormally terrifying. The advancement in skill caused by his increase in consciousness could be seen in this battle. From the moment the battle begun, the rhythm of battle was in his hands. From beginning to end, he didn't give the enemy on chance. Steadily and unrushed, with a method that was almost suffocating, he pressed on the other's space, leaving them no room to maneuver. However, Lil Miss still had a high opinion of Shi Dong. If he hadn't had a breakthrough in his consciousness recently, the other would have been significant trouble for him to defeat. If the battle was fought in those conditions, less than 1/3 of Vermilion Bird Camp would remain, and it wouldn't have been 0 fatalities like it was now. The other reason they had such an advantage was the enemy Mo army's level was 1 lower than Vermilion Bird Camp. The investments that Sui Mo made on Vermilion Bird Camp without any consideration for the cost finally showed their effects. Lil Miss was sure that the other had power that was nearing that of a gold battle general. Of all of Turtle Island, only Gongsun Cha and Sui Mo had the power to fight against him. Even Shu Long was lacking in comparison. It was a pity that Shi Dong encountered Gongsun Lil Mississippi. The terrifying Lil Miss that even the renowned Corps Commander Yu Heng had fallen at the feet of. Such a hardy opponent, Gongsun Cha sighed emotionally and turned to give the order to attack. Prepare to attack, let's finish this battle before sunset. Suddenly, Gongsun Cha's gaze stopped. He saw the enemy battle general leave the battle formation alone. The sword shio at the front quickly flew back and reported to Gongsun Cha. Darren, they are surrendering. Chapter 520, The Master of Cloud Sea. No one had expected that the battle ended in this kind of manner. When Lil Miss received Swomo's paper crane, he did not have any hesitation and led his troops directly towards the Cloud Sea Jie River. No one knew that Turtle Island had achieved victory over the Mo army. There were large numbers of Xiozha gathered at the Jie River and were preparing to flee Cloud Sea Jie. When Lil Miss appeared with the troops, he instantly caused panic in these Xiozha. Even the Xiozha that occupied the gathering points on the Jie River assumed that Turtle Island had been defeated. In panic, they instantly abandoned their bases to flee Cloud Sea Jie. Lil Miss easily took over the bases on the Jie River. There wasn't any conflict involved. Those Xiozha that had been running away quickly reacted when they saw Lil Miss take over the gathering places. Turtle Island had defeated the Mo. As expected, the news of their victory was quickly proven. Everyone was overjoyed. At this time, control of Cloud Sea Jie landed completely in Swomo's hands. They had become the true masters of Cloud Sea Jie. The Xiozha that had been planning to escape returned to their homes. Without the Mo army threat, who was willing to leave their homeland? Turtle Island's strength astounded everyone. At this time, which faction did not know of Zhuo Mo's ambitions? But the situation had formed and they could not do a thing. Fight? The other could defeat the Mo army. Wouldn't killing them be as easy as waving their hand? The factions that were not willing to be subordinate to Turtle Island left Cloud Sijia. However, many families that had deep local roots decided to stay in Cloud Sijia. Unexpected to Zhuo Mo and Lil Miss, the great majority of people decided to stay. Zhuo Mo later learned that most of the people in Cloud Sijia did not care who ruled them. Turtle Island's strength was also enough to protect them and for them to feel safe. With the sky-splitting calamity, war was spreading everywhere. These days, the sound tablet continuously broadcasted areas that had become battlefields, which areas had been turned into a patch of scorched earth, or was filled with mountains of corpses. It seemed that within the span of one night, the Xiuzhou world really entered a troubled era. In a troubled era, preserving their lives was enough to satisfy most people. But for Zhuo Mo, this was just the beginning. He was extremely busy every day. The enormous Cloud Sijia was the largest piece of territory he had ever controlled. The responsibilities as master of a Jia were novel and puzzling for Zhuo Mo, an ignorant country bumpkin with unorthodox origins. The complex matters were piled up like mountains and caused him a headache. He did not know where to start. Out of helplessness, he could only ask Pu Yao and Wei. Now you see, I guessed this would happen long ago. Pu Yao did not reserve his disdain as a scornful smile hung on his face. This guy is just a country bumpkin. He can manage some business that doesn't require long-term investment. But to be a small-time landlord, he doesn't have the skill. Wei did not pay attention to Pu Yao's disdain. He had a warm and friendly smile on his face. Did you encounter some trouble? Neither of these two were good people. In all of this, Zhuo Mo was clear on this one point. Nothing more needed to be said about Pu Yao. He was an ungenerous person, but Wei wasn't much better. He might look harmless and friendly, but his level of danger wasn't any lower than Pu Yao. He did not respond to Wei. He had to cause conflict between these two. Zhuo Mo's eyes turned and he suddenly asked, Pu Yao, how is your Yao army? Pu Yao's expression instantly darkened. The anger in his bloody pupil roiled. Those damned talentless trash, idiots, garbage. Even when he used all his methods, the foundations of these people were too weak and they could not satisfy Pu Yao even now. Yao army. Wei gave an interested smile. No wonder Pu Yao had been absent in this past while. So he had been working on a Yao army. It seemed this guy still held a grudge over him stealing away guard camp. Zhuo Mo disregarded Pu Yao's dark expression and said to himself, no matter how powerful 10-finger prison is, it is only the 10-finger prison. It cannot solve all training problems. Useless words. Pu Yao's voice was glacial and his expression was unfriendly. He knew that Zhuo Mo was right. 10-finger prison was very effective, but it also had its limitations. It could not replace true combat. At the beginning, Nan Yu and the others had improved quickly, but recently the effects of lacking combat training had started to show. Their rate of advancement had slowed down. But damn it, was the great Pu Yao Darren someone this boy could laugh at? It seemed that it had been too long since the boy was straightened out. This guy was becoming outrageous. Pu Yao was irritated. Just as he was going to punish Zhuo Mo suddenly spoke, I have a good solution. Ha! Pu Yao seemed to have heard a great joke and roared with laughter. He did not disguise his look full of disdain. You, the country bumpkin, has a solution. This is too funny. Immune to Pu Yao's disdain since long ago, Zhuo Mo's expression was unconcerned. You can listen first and then laugh. Pu Yao's laughter suddenly stopped. He stared hard at Zhuo Mo and a moment later, he squeezed out between his teeth, you better have a solution. Otherwise, he. Suemo said solemnly, many chaos rifts have appeared in the sky-splitting calamity. These chaos rifts have connected the worlds of Yaoma and Shouja. It is correct for me to say so. Don't waste words. Pu Yao said coldly. There was a faint smile on Wei's face. He sat motionlessly and listened carefully. The Yaoma and Shouja territories can be connected through the chaos rifts rather than traveling through bloody sky metropolis Jia like in the past. The distance between the two sides has shortened. Just as Pu Yao was running out of patience, Suemo suddenly said, maybe we can create a transportation formation and transport Nan Yu and the others over here. Transportation formation. Pu Yao paused and then had a thoughtful expression. A moment later, he shook his head. Impossible. We cannot determine their location. You know that some transportation formations are composed of a yin and a yang component. What if we get Nan Yu and the others to set up the yin formation? Suemo asked in response. Pu Yao's eyes suddenly lit up. He was an extremely smart person and instantly understood what Suemo was thinking. These transportation formations were divided up into yin and yang formations with the two situated in different places. This way, the two formations could still connect and so there would be a passage. If Nan Yu and the others could set up a yin formation in the Yao world, a yang formation set up here, that meant the chaos rifts formed from the sky-splitting calamity were actually natural transportation formations. Pu Yao quickly thought of the difficulty involved. He shook his head and said, the transportation formations are too complex. None of the others understand formations. We have sun seeds, Suemo said proudly. The sun seeds can enter the 10-finger prison and be taken out. We can engrave the transportation formation onto the sun seed and use the 10-finger prison to pass it to Nan Yu. Wouldn't that work? This idea is interesting. Pu Yao stilled and then had a pondering expression. A beat later, he said, we need to try and find out. Suemo's idea was very daring. I can supply sun seeds to you. You can find Gu Ming Gong for the transportation formation. That guy is very clever, Suemo said generously. Humph. Pu Yao snorted. He did not respond to Suemo. You only have to assign the daily affairs of Cloud Sea Jia to those local powers and get them to take care of it. If they do it well, reward them. If they don't, they get punished. Gather their powerful Shouja and make a battalion with your people as the leaders. Adding on your own battalions, who can rebel? Suemo slapped his head and understood. Pu Yao just used a few words and smoothed everything out, pointing straight at the crux of the matter. Suemo wasn't stupid. He had been bewilderment because he never had experienced dealing with these matters before. After being guided today, he instantly understood. He left the sea of consciousness with excitement. From beginning to end, there was a faint smile on Wei's face. It was unknown what he was thinking. Shi Dong looked coldly at Yi Ling. Yi Ling was unaffected. Does Shi Dong Darren have any questions? What you say is true. Shi Dong coldly spat out, his hand on the mantis blade at his waist. Completely true. Yi Ling said sincerely. All of my subordinates saw Darren's great Damo physique. If Shi Dong Darren has any questions, you can ask any one of them. Shi Dong's expression did not change. His subordinates are Shouja. There are Shouja. Yi Ling corrected the mistake in Shi Dong's words, guard camp, which is the camp that my superior, Shu Long Darren commands, cultivates Mo skills. Shi Dong Darren might have heard of the skill, hardship guard. Hardship guard. Shi Dong's pupils suddenly contracted. Of course he had heard of this name. This Mo skill was something usually cultivated by the guards of Mo generals and had an extremely high in reputation. Yes, it is the hardship guard that most Mo generals' guards cultivate, Yi Ling said with a grave expression. But the hardship guard that Shu Long Darren and his group cultivate has been modified by a very powerful Darren and is based on the great Damo physique. It is called, Great Day Hardship Guard. Sherdong could not stop himself from showing shock. A Darren that can use the Great Day Mo physique to modify, hardship guard, could they possibly be Shouja? Yi Ling asked in response. Sherdong was silent. He knew that Yi Ling was correct. Someone that had the ability to use the Great Day Mo physique to modify, hardship guard, was a powerful elder who definitely had a profound understanding of Mo skills. This kind of powerful person would not likely be a Shouja. This didn't just mean they couldn't be Shouja, they also could not be Yao. There was only one possibility, it was a powerful Mo, and an unusually powerful Mo. Cultivates the Great Day Mo physique, has created a Mo army, and has a Mo elder of immeasurable power. I cannot think of an identity for Darren other than Mo. Yi Ling was calm and wise. Sherdong was silent for a moment before he asked, what about those Shouja? This is the Shouja world. Sherdong Darren. Yi Ling reminded Sherdong. A purely Mo troop cannot survive here. Darren needs Shouja. Sherdong gave a bitter smile. He was persuaded. He sat down dejectedly. Yi Long looked understandingly at Sherdong. He said gently, I know what Sherdong Darren is feeling. For you, surrendering is hard to accept, but if you look at it from the opposite angle, Sherdong Darren, isn't this a great opportunity? He looked hard at Sherdong and asked, emphasizing each word, Sherdong Darren, how many years has it been since there was a king arose from our little savage Jie? Sherdong's body shook. He raised his head, his gaze as sharp as a knife. You think he can become king? Maybe, maybe not. Yi Ling's tone was indifferent. But Darren is the Mo with the greatest potential to become king that I have ever seen. So you gambled everything? Sherdong asked. His tone was filled with disdain. Yi Ling was unaffected and smiled as usual. What else do we have? Sherdong Darren. Sherdong became silent again. Chapter 521, Followers having solved his problems, Swa Mo could finally release a breath. He began thinking about finding water cloud embryo for Agui. Agui's recovery was going well. Even though she was still very wooden, she had more reactions. In a few days, we can go to search for water cloud embryo. By that time, you will completely recover. Swa Mo was very happy. If they found water cloud embryo, he could heal Agui. Swa Mo didn't feel any distaste for Agui's ugly appearance. A slight smile was on his face. His hand felt coldness. A cold little hand grabbed his hand. Agui was improving by the day. Every time she found Swa Mo nearby, she would immediately appear next to Swa Mo. The thing she liked to do the most was hold Swa Mo's hand. Swa Mo allowed her to grip his hand, his other hand rubbing her head. He said with a smile, when you have healed, silly bird and the others will be very happy. In the corner, the fat silly bird was napping with her eyes closed. She didn't respond. Looking at the bird nest he created out of Agui's hair, Swa Mo couldn't help but roar with laughter. Agui still stood silently next to Swa Mo motionlessly. Why are you sitting here? Do you have something on your mind? Ming Ju's voice came from behind Nanyu. He walked next to Nanyu and sat down. In this recent while, everyone was training together. The hellish training and shared hardship had caused their friendships to strengthen. Just now when cultivating in the 10-finger prison, Pu Yao had viciously scolded Nanyu. When Nanyu left the 10-finger prison, she had ran out alone. Everyone was worried and sent Ming Ju Zi, who was most skilled in communication, to comfort Nanyu. Am I too dumb? Nanyu's tone was melancholic. The rims of her eyes were red and her expression was sad. I'm always unable to meet Pu Darren's expectations. Even the persistent Nanyu had been scolded to such a state. Ming Yu Zi was even more afraid of Pu Yao. None of us can met Pu Darren's expectations, Ming Ju Zi comforted. It is not that you are not working hard, it is that Pu Daren's requirements are too high. Really, not even the elites in the top Yao art houses can reach what Pu Daren is demanding. It is extremely good that you can do what you have done. Out of all of us, you have improved the quickest. Nan Yu's lips were tightly pressed together and she did not speak. Pu Daren might be stern, but it is for our sake. Look at our present strength. Compared to before, which one of us hasn't multiplied in strength? As he spoke, Ming Ju Zi compared his past and present strength and found to his shock that he had improved so much without noticing it. I miss Daren. Nan Yu's voice held a sob. Daren is never like this. Thinking about the time that Sui Mo had spent teaching her, Nan Yu missed it. Yes, I wonder what Daren is busy with. Ming Ju Zi sighed as well. He gazed into the distance. However, doesn't Pu Daren also work with Daren? Everyone is speculating. Pu Daren might be an elder of Daren's clan. I don't know what Daren's lineage is. But for his clan possess such a powerful elder, it might be one of the legendary great families. No matter what Daren's identity is, I am Daren's follower. I will forever follow Daren. Nan Yu's tone was determined. Same with me. Ming Ju Zi retracted his cheer and showed a serious expression. Nan Yu suddenly stood up. Her eyes were still red, but her expression became determined again. What is it? Ming Ju Zi was slightly puzzled. I am going to cultivate. Nan Yu said without turning her head. I am Daren's follower. The figure disappeared with the wind as she threw down the strong oath. Gu Minggong's eyes were swollen like two ripe peaches. He had not rested for 10 days and nights. Even a Jindan could not tolerate working conditions like this. Anyone who saw his figure right now would not be able to recognize him as the Grandmaster of Forging and Sealing, Gu Minggong. He stared at the sun seed in front of him. The first time he saw this, Gu Minggong had been so excited his body had been trembling. Treasure. Peerless treasure. When he learned that this was the seed produced by the Sun Shan tree, a pleasure like that of an orgasm had risen in his body. Oh, heavens! Sun Shan tree, the legendary Sun Shan tree, hadn't it gone extinct a long time ago? When he learned he would be able to get a few to study, he felt so happy he almost fainted. There was nothing as powerful as legendary materials to a seal shio skilled in forging. Then he learned the other person's intentions. They just wanted him to engrave a transportation formation inside the sun seed. He almost went crazy. Transportation formation. What he said was a transportation formation. This kind of priceless treasure was being used for just a transportation formation. He almost threw the other out. He could not tolerate such frightening waste. However, the other quickly taught him what the outcome of being uncooperative was. The great boss personally ran over to persuade him and motivated him in a meaningful tone before leaving. The pitiful Gu Minggong was frightened out of his wits. Even though boss had not mentioned one word of the soul-setting divine light at all, and did not say what would happen if he did not cooperate, but Gu Minggong sank into unprecedented terror. He didn't dare to slack off in the slightest. So what if it was a waste, he was just the worker. He quickly found that this guy in black clothing, floated around like a ghost all day, was the strictest and most terrifying supervisor in the world. The situation was also more complex than he had imagined. The sun seed was extremely rare. He had never seen one before, and even the forging records had never mentioned the qualities of the sun seed. Gu Minggong had to start from the beginning. The sun seed was filled with the domineering Sun Shan power. The Sun Shan power had formed through a long time as the Sun Shan tree grew, and was extremely domineering. Ling power would be consumed by the Sun Shan power when it was added, and it was impossible to carve a formation inside. He ran to explain to Pu Yao and was verbally slapped and rebuked by Pu Yao. Pu Yao's viciousness could him that he only needed a result etc. etc. The pitiful Gu Mingdong had the desire to ram his head into the wall and commit suicide. It was a pity that when one landed in the hands of a demon, one was even unable to seek death. Gu Mingdong that was slapped and could only study even more ferociously and try everything he could think of. Ha 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 ha. I did it. I did it. The insane laughter echoed in the room. Whoosh, Pu Yao appeared like a ghost. Without a word, he picked up the sun seed with great carefulness. To Pu Yao, the sun shen power inside the sun seed was akin to a powerful poison. His consciousness retreated. Pu Yao showed joy and then disappeared soundlessly. The fighting in the Grey Clan's council meeting had not stopped since the meeting started. Zhang was silent in the corner. He didn't have any right to speak in this place. A hint of impatience flashed indiscernibly through his eyes at the elders fighting. He felt those noisy elders had gone senile with age. Without Darren, would there be the Grey Clan of the present? In the future? In these troubled times, how many of the small clans like the Grey Clan could survive? Did they still think that this was the safe rear that the fires of war could not reach? Right now, was there still a rear? Clans without combat capabilities were like a piece of fat meat. No one would hesitate to leap and take a bite. Pu Darren had been helping everyone train the battalion. The Grey Clan that only thought about protecting themselves were too stupid. He was Darren's follower. Zhang Ze's spine was straight as he listened expressionlessly to the discussions of the elders. The chief elder noticed Zhang Ze's discontentment. His mind shifted and he suddenly spoke, "Aze, what do you think about moving the clan?" An elder said discontentedly, "Chief elder, Aze is so young, what does he understand?" A cold light flashed through Chief Elder's eyes and he interrupted in a grave voice. "Shut your mouth. Aze is the future clan leader. When you speak, use your mind." The elder retreated with a red face. Chief Elder was extremely authoritative and influential. Zhang Ze was the appointed successor to the Grey Clan, so everyone's gaze instantly landed on Zhang Ze. Zhang Ze did not shrink back. He did not look at the elders and said directly, "I am Darren's follower. No matter where Darren goes, I will follow." Everyone stilled. They finally recalled the matter that Aze was Xiao Mo Ge's follower. In the Yao world, they put great importance on the oath of a follower. Becoming the follower of someone strong was the dream of many people. Not many would easily go back on their word. Chief Elder also knew the displeasure Aze was feeling. He said with a smile, "Aze, continue." Zhang Ze suddenly swept tall of the elders with his gaze and said gravely, "Elders, are we safe? Is the world safe? Are we strong? Strong enough that no matter what comes, we can protect ourselves?" The room was silent. "We do not have a battalion, we do not have battle generals, even with the Grey Scar art, we have no ability to protect ourselves. And then? We will be swallowed by other people, our Grey Clan's greatest secret, the Grey Scar art, will land in the hands of others. Our enemies would not surrender such a good chance." Zhang Ze stated this cruel reality without any courtesy. "Will Darren swallow us? Will Darren need our Grey Scar art? Elders, did you forget where this Grey Scar art came from? What is safer than being under the command of a peerless battle general that could defeat Corps Commander Yuhang? This is an honor." Heat flashed through Zhang Ze's eyes. All of the elders shifted. After a moment of silence, the chief elder did not disguise the praise on his face and said, "I hadn't expected that our group of old people do not see as clearly as the young one, Aze." Those elders that had been objecting to moving the clan all had shamed expressions. Sky-splitting calamity. The sky-splitting calamity. Chief Elder's heavy sigh echoed in the room. "I don't know how much blood will flow because of this. Everyone, do not dream and be foolishness, troubled times have come." Everyone had grave expressions. They digested what Chief Elder was saying. Chief Elder suddenly stood up. With a serious expression, he said loudly, "In such troubled times, if our Grey clan is to survive, we need a stronger leader. Due to this, I recommend a Zhe as the new clan leader." Sun Zhe shouted in shock. Moments later, "I second this." Seconded. "I agree." A new era had arrived. Chapter 522, Beak Island. When Nan Yu and the others saw Zhuemo, their expressions were spectacular. Even though they knew that Darren was young, the shock when they saw him with their own eyes far surpassed what they felt in the 10-finger prison. What shocked them even more was that Darren was in the Xiuzha territories. They finally understood why Darren had them change their appearances to look like Xiuzha when they came through the transportation formation. However, just like Yiling, Nan Yu and the others did not have any doubts about Zhuemo's identity as a Yao despite their shock of where they were. A guy that knew all kinds of lost Yao arts, successfully completed a prison-breaking battle, and defeated Corps Commander Yu Hang. Other than a Yao, what could he be? Xiuzha. That joke would be so bad. On this point, their thoughts were also the same as Yiling. They felt that Darren was definitely a genius from a noble family that was lost in the Xiuzha conquered territories. No wonder no one in the Yao world had found Darren. They finally realized. Darren wasn't in the Yao world at all. Right now, Zhuemo was truly the master of Cloud Sea Jia in name and power. There were many Cloud Islands in Cloud Sea Jia and he picked a calm Cloud Island to settle the Grey family. The first day that Nan Yu and the others arrived, Pu Yao immediately started arranging a new training regime for them. Pu Yao was full of ambition. As one of the top battle generals of the Yao world, someone that had once dominated the world, he decided to make Nan Yu and the others into the best battle generals of the Yao world. He decided to let Wei realize the truth, why little Wei could only be a gravestone armor, and I, Pu, had been the best battle general once. The pitiful Nan Yu and others didn't even have the chance to breathe before Pu Yao kicked them into insane training routines. There was a boundary of Jinji set up around the Cloud Island. It was a natural demonic training ground. After Zhuemo recruited the other powers, Cloud Sea Jia quickly settled down. The ones selected were those with good reputations in Cloud Sea Jia. The only two Yuanying that Cloud Sea Jia had seemed to have disappeared from the world after streaking naked in front of the public at the Sun Shen Temple. They hadn't shown up at all when the Mo army had invaded this time. Many people speculated that they had left Cloud Sea Jia long ago. They really had been greatly embarrassed this time. What face did they have to stay in Cloud Sea Jia? After arranging everything, Zhuemo decided to enter the Cloud Sea to search for Water Cloud Embryo. This time, he did not take many people along. The Cloud Sea depths were not suited for large-scale battles. Their group was made up of a guide, Zhuemo, Wei Sheng, Zhong Ru, a Gui, and the little ones. They looked more like a tourist group. Even though they were few in number, their combat capabilities were amongst the top in Cloud Sea Jia. Zhuemo, Wei Sheng, and Zhong Ru working together might hold up against a Yuanying. Zhuemo had not planned to take a Gui along, but Pu Yao told him that it was most effective to consume the water cloud embryo when it was caught, so Zhuemo decided to take a Gui along. Silly Bird stalked imperiously and proudly beside a Gui and ignored Zhuemo. Lil Pagoda and Lil Fire were cuddled up in a Gui's embrace. Lil Black held onto a Gui's hair in a death grip. 10th grade and Sunshine appeared to be bodyguards and flew around a Gui. Zhuemo felt great exasperation. In terms of shamelessness and wretchedness, the little ones that Zhuemo taught truly learned it all. Zhuemo didn't have a solution. In any case, taking one or taking all of them along was the same. He changed his way of thinking. They were pretty good fighters. Nothing needed to be said of Silly Bird, she was the strongest of the little ones. Even Zhuemo didn't have a good measure of her abilities. The next strongest was 10th grade. He had made trouble for the insects frequently, and his skill had completely changed. Lil Pagoda was Swamo's soul-tethered talisman. It played every day and never did anything productive. It could probably only be used when setting up formations. Swamo had not seen Sunshine fight before. Lil Black's combat abilities were zero, but he was a good helper when finding treasure. Lil Fire could be used to relieve boredom on the road. Swamo brought along his group and departed. The guide was called Kongda. He made a living by hunting water cloud embryos and was very familiar with the depths of the cloud sea. According to Kongda's plans, they first needed to fly to a place called Beak Island and then descend into the cloud sea from there. Beak Island was a very famous cloud sea port in Cloud Sea Jia. The depths of the cloud sea were filled with all kinds of dangers. If one tried entering from a random spot, they frequently did not return. Beak Island had been used as an entrance to the Cloud Sea for a very long time. That part of the Cloud Sea was very safe and there were no strong beings. The distance between Turtle Island and Beak Island was extremely far and there were many parts of the trip that did not have transportation formations. Fully prepared, Swamo had taken along the black turtle which saved them the pain of having to flying long distances. Wei Sheng and Zhong Ru were in seclusion every day. Swamo played with the little ones every day and when he had the spare time, he would slowly study the golden leaf he obtained from the Sun Shan tribe. He didn't know what secret method had been used to make this golden leaf. The content on it was extremely rich but because it was from the ancient era, there were many areas that were very hard to understand. Swamo's attitude was very good. He was not impatient and only studied it occasionally. Other than the methods to cultivate Shan power, he was also interested in the ancient secrets. For example, he found out from the golden leaf that in the ancient era Cloud Sea Jia had been barren and there were no other tribes living here. This was probably the reason that this Shan temple had managed to survive. What stirred Swamo's interest was that the golden leaf hinted that the Shan temple had been searching for something constantly in Cloud Sea Jia but never found it. Swamo finally understood and some of his own questions were resolved. Big brother Qin Ling had once said that the level of this Shan temple was not ranked low within the Sun tribe. Shouldn't such a high-ranking Shan temple be constructed in a large and populated area? Why did they build it in the remote and barren Cloud Sea Jia? But the golden leaf did not mention what they were searching for. However, it was certain that they did not find it because the tone of the records was slightly regretful. Swamo never stopped cultivating his Shan power but his progress was extremely slow. It was much harder to cultivate Shan power compared to the three powers. Fortunately, Swamo was not in a hurry. The only thing that made him slightly dejected was that after the three powers equalized and his Ling power had increased, but he was still a thread away from Jindan. If he could break through to Jindan, his power would multiple in the span of one night. His Shan power would increase as well, and enter a new realm. However, Swamo was very content at this time. Shan power, soul-setting divine light, great Daimo physique, and the archaic wasteland sacrificial art, which of these was not powerful and unique? He was able to learn all these, what could he be discontent about? A person could not be so greedy. Swamo was idle and satisfied. Half a month later, they finally reached Beak Island. Swamo looked at the large numbers of Shouja on Beak Island and was slightly shocked. So many people. Kongda explained, this is the best time to search for water cloud embryos and is also when Beak Island is most popular. Whether the yearly harvest is good or not depends on your luck during this time. These people are all searching for water cloud embryos. Swamo was so shocked his chin was almost on the ground. The great majority are. The Cloud Sea has other products but this period of time it is most profitable to hunt water cloud embryo. Kongda was clearly very familiar with the present situation. High demand, low supply, wouldn't it be difficult for us? Swamo frowned slightly. Kongda shook his head. How can it be so easy to capture a water cloud embryo? Island Master, do not worry. You see many people, but the number that will gain something will be very small. They are also not very strong and cannot go deep into the cloud sea. The best quality water cloud embryos are deep in the cloud sea. Suomo's heart was slightly reassured. Suomo's group had changed their appearances so no one recognized them. But Lil Pagoda and the others attracted the attention of these shouja. The heat and greed in their eyes caused Suomo to frown slightly. "Brother, are you selling this fire-ling beast? We can negotiate the price." An eagle-nosed man came over. From nearby, his compatriots looked over. Lil Fire jumped in fright and burrowed into Agui's arms. Lil Fire's intelligent response caused this eagle-nosed male's gaze to heat up. "No." Suomo's face darkened as he walked ahead. "Hey, don't go." The eagle-nosed male blocked Suomo and said with a smile, "This little brother really wants it and is definitely sincere. Brother, give a price, we can negotiate." Kongda suddenly spoke, "He family brothers, my Darren has said we are not selling, do not keep bothering us." The eagle-nosed male's eyes narrowed slightly and flashed, "Someone that can identify of this one's origins should be someone familiar." He Weiss eyes are stupid. "Sir, who are you?" Kongda smirked coldly, "Don't bother trying to find out my identity. Let me advise you, be good. Otherwise, none of your brothers will be able to escape." This was slightly troublesome. He Weiss' heart shook. Someone that could identify his origins was definitely someone familiar. The other's tone was so harsh he clearly had a powerful background and didn't need to consider him. He Wei was experienced and knew when to bow. He smiled and said, "Brother, what are you saying? This little brother came up to ask, and does not have malicious intentions." He perceptively stepped out of the way. He watched as Suomo's group left and thought hard, who was this? His brothers quickly came over. "How is it? Are they not selling?" "No," He Weiss' expression was solemn, "and one of them recognizes us. It definitely is someone familiar, but they have changed their appearance. Who cares, just steal it. That fire-ling beast is definitely very high grade. If we can get it, second brother, your strength will multiply." One of the people said nonchalantly. This group's origins are not simple, if they are not rich, they are powerful. He Wei thought back to the meeting and felt the other was calm and clearly did not think highly of them. He shook his head and said, "This group might be from a large faction. Let's not cause trouble." The other people all had unconcerned expressions. The geography of Beak Island was extremely unique. It appeared as though a bird was opening its mouth facing the sky. The entrance to the cloud sea was where the mouth was open. There was almost no cloud mist at the entrance. Looking down, it was possible to see an endless path that disappeared into the cloud sea. Beak Island was actually a mountain peak that had a section above the cloud sea. "Darren, let's go down," Kongda said respectfully. Chapter 523, Xian Kong Temples. Mo and the others did not pay attention to the He brothers. Even Kongda did not keep them in mind. Beside him was the true master of Cloud Sea Jie. People like the He brothers were not worth a mention. As they descended into the cloud sea, the light gradually dimmed. The thick cloud sea blocked most of the sunlight, but this was not as dark as Suomo had imagined. There were many cloud grasses floating in the cloud layers and each released faint light that illuminated the world below the cloud sea. Kongda saw Suomo and the others curiously examining the cloud grasses and hurriedly explained, "This place is a great producer of cloud grasses. The quality is very good, and occasionally, merchants from the outside will come and buy them. However, this is worthless locally." "What is the use for this?" Suomo asked curiously. It was the first time he saw cloud grasses. These cloud grasses were shaped like sea grasses, the blades had the thickness of a pinky, completely white, and would release faint light. The individual bushes were about the size of a basket, and it was possible to occasionally see enormous ones that were multiple zhang in area. They can be used to forge water element Ling Dan, but only first grade, Kongda said. Those that aren't strong wouldn't dare to come down. Those that are strong do not care about these cloud grasses. These cloud grasses reproduce extremely quickly and can be found everywhere. Suemo understood. Everyone walked down. This mountain path was misty, but the mist was tin. Under the cloud sea, what is most common is all kinds of cloud beasts. There are many people that come to hunt cloud beasts. Cloud beasts are water-oriented, and many people like them. But to get high-grade ones, they need to go deep into the cloud sea. Suemo asked curiously, what qualities of the cloud beasts are outstanding? Being of the water element, their most powerful ability is their illusory spells. Since their body is formed from cloud mist, unless one encounters fire spells, other spells cannot inflict major damage. Kongda was clearly familiar with this area and his words flowed without needing to think. How long has old Kong been here? Wei Sheng asked Kongda. Kongda couldn't help but sigh. More than a decade. Actually, there are several other entrances to the cloud sea other than this one, but this is the most famous one. Consequently, this place has the most shouja making a living here. Wei Sheng smiled. He had endured poverty before, but his heart was dedicated to the sword. The hardships of life did not leave any mark behind and he naturally did not feel anything. Suemo couldn't help but think back to his time at Wukong Mountain when he fought every day for each piece of jingshi. He instantly felt sympathy. Seeing Kongda's expression was slightly heavy, Suemo hurriedly changed the topic. He said with a smile, those who have not come down definitely could not imagine that the scenery down here is very good. The faint cloud mist was like silk. The cloud grasses floating in the cloud sea slowly swayed with the cloud sea. Darren has good taste. But the scenery later will be even better. Kongda laughed openly. As Kongda said, the scenery below was even more beautiful. After walking for 4 whole hours, their field of view suddenly broadened. They had passed through the thick cloud sea. The thick cloud sea slowly rippled above their heads and countless cloud grasses drooped down from the cloud sea. These cloud grasses were extremely large, all of them multiple mu in area. The blades that dangled down were dozens of zhang in length. Looking from afar, the cloud sea was a curved ceiling, and the drooping cloud grasses were like densely packed waterfalls of light. The scenery was spectacular and endless. It's so beautiful. Suemo was astounded. Wei Sheng and Zhong Ru were also shocked by the spectacular scene in front of them. Lil Pagoda and the others instantly became excited and flew around Agoe. Lil Fire was so excited it started to chirp. Kongda smiled slightly. He was used to the scene in front of him and had become habituated to it a long time ago. The shouja that walked past them all smiled. Every greenhorn that entered the deep of the cloud sea for the first time would have this expression. There was a constant flow of shouja passing by. Everyone hoped to get something early. The price of the first batch of cloud beasts and water cloud embryo was usually the highest of the year. At this time, Zhong Ru, whose eyes had been closed all this time, suddenly made a sound and turned his head slightly. Several Diana Shio attracted his attention. The leader was one wearing purple Diana robes. He had white brows and hair, and had an extraordinary mannerism. Behind him were 3 Diana Shio in blue robes who were all very young. These Diana Shio also noticed Zhong Ru. The purple-robed Diana Shio's eyes flashed. He did not speak, but his palms came together as he bowed towards Zhong Ru. Zhong Ru's eyes were still closed, but a warm smile came onto his face. He also returned the greeting with his palms together. Noticing Zhong Ru's action, Wei Sheng looked over. The other also noticed Wei Sheng. A thread of shock flashed across the purple-robed Diana Shio again, but his expression did not change. With a harmonious air, he bowed towards Wei Sheng. Wei Sheng did not speak and bowed slightly in acknowledgement. From beginning to end, the two sides did not speak, but a strange exchange had occurred between the two sides. Only when the other had gone far away did Zhong Ru and Wei Xing take their eyes away. "These people are not simple," Wei Xing said in a deep voice. "The Diana Xiao in purple robes is very powerful, and possibly a Yuanying. Even if he isn't far from becoming one." Zhong Ru nodded and agreed, "They should be from one of the great temples. We can ask Yi Zheng. He should know." Zhuo Mo, who had been wandering in his thoughts, finally focused. Seeing the two acting as though they were facing a great enemy, he couldn't help but inquire. The two narrated what just occurred. Zhuo Mo thought and then decided to go ask Yi Zheng. Kong De hadn't planned on talking, but he still couldn't help but say, "Darren, the cloud sea is thick. Paper cranes and normal flying swords cannot be used here, and cannot deliver messages to the outside." Zhuo Mo waved his hand and said, "No worries, I have my ways." Zhong Ru casted a small illusory spell which projected the appearances of the Diana Xiao. Zhuo Mo memorized it and then entered the sea of consciousness. Other people could not use paper cranes, but he could go through Pu Yao and pass the message out. But he hadn't expected Pu Yao to snort when he saw the people and said, "There's no need to ask other people, I know their origins." Zhuo Mo said suspiciously, "You know?" Pu Yao smirked coldly, "We fought so long in the past, it's impossible for me not to recognize them. They are Baldies from Xian Kong Temple." You better be careful." "Xian Kong Temple?" Zhuo Mo almost shouted. The biggest powers in the Shuzhe world were the four realms, Kunlun, Tianhuan, Xixian, and Xian Kong. Xian Kong realm was the holy land of the Diana Xiao, and the gathering place of all the famed temples in the world. Xian Kong Temple was also the leader of all the temples in the world. Yi Zheng's Great Buddha Temple might also be one of the 10 great temples, but compared to Xian Kong Temple, they were not in the same class. You better not encounter the Baldies of Xian Kong Temple. Otherwise, he. The bloody sea of Pu Yao's red eye roiled. Zhuo Mo was frightened by Pu Yao's vicious expression. He hadn't seen Pu Yao act like this when it was Kunlun. Are they more powerful than Kunlun? More powerful than Kunlun? Not that powerful, Pu Yao said coldly. Kunlun is the top in fighting power, but none are more powerful than the Baldies in dragging people down. The Baldies are motherfucking fanatics that do not fear death. There was one battle in the past when the Baldies wanted to exterminate us evil Yama, and 60 Yuanying committed suicide by exploding. If it wasn't Lousy that noticed something was wrong, we would have fell for it, and been blasted to pieces. Exploded, 60 Yuanying. Zhuo Mo stammered. He was unable to talk smoothly. This secret piece of information was so shocking he lost the ability to think. 60 Yuanying collectively exploding themselves. How crazy would they have to be to do that? One Yuanying from Tianhuan was enough to cause chaos in Cloud Xijia, 60 Yuanying. When Zhuo Mo came out of the sea of consciousness, Zhong Ru and Wei Xing looked at him. They had noticed Zhuo Mo's terrible expression long ago. Zhuo Mo opened his eyes and said in a dry voice, "They are from Xian Kong Temple." Xian Kong Temple. Wei Xing and Zhong Ru inhaled sharply. Kong De's expression instantly turned ashen. Xian Kong Temple. The leader of all Diana Xiao, one of the 4 great sects in the world. Why have they come here? Wei Xing's sword heart was like stone and he quickly calmed down. Zhong Ru's samadhi was also extremely high. His mind shook and then he recovered his calmness. Zhuo Mo also recovered his calm. So what if it was Xian Kong Temple? Hadn't he managed to trick the elder from Tianhuan? He had been frightened by the simultaneous suicide explosion of 60 Yuanying that Pu Yao had mentioned. He turned around his thinking. He was just a little character. They wouldn't give him such a grand treatment. He suddenly thought of something. He had to tell Guard Camp, Grey Camp, Nan Yu, and the others to not show themselves in the short term. If the group of fanatics really caught them, they would definitely try to exterminate and kill Yamo. Pu Yao was extremely dissatisfied with this action of retreating, but he also knew there was no chance of victory if he had Zhuai Mo face Xian Kong Temple at this time. Wei held a slight smile as he watched Pu Yao and Zhuai Mo fight. But from any angle, it seemed that he was laughing at Pu Yao. After sending out the orders, Zhuai Mo saw the terror in Kong De's eyes and his ashen complexion. He hurriedly comforted. "Let's go, don't bother with them. The Cloud Sea is so large, and everyone has their own aims. We won't encounter them." Kong De's complexion finally improved. He felt that the words were right. He knew just how large the Cloud Sea was. How likely would it be that they encountered each other and competed over the same item? However, after this incident, Zhuai Mo lost all of his interest. The beautiful and vast scenery instantly became tasteless. The Cloud Sea is endless and there are many paths. If it is someone who is unfamiliar, they would definitely get lost. The cloud over Kong De's mind gradually dissipated. Even though everyone was coming down from Beak Island, but the possibility of encountering each other was pitifully small. Zhuai Mo swept the surroundings and suddenly asked, "Why is no one flying?" Kong De hurriedly explained, "The Cloud Sea is different than other places. It is best not to fly in here. The Ling power vibrations can easily attract the attention of many cloud beasts that hide in the cloud layer." At the beginning, many people thought they were powerful and just charged recklessly through, but they never came out in the end. After such a long time, no one dared to fly in there. So that's why. Zhuai Mo finally understood. Fortunately, everyone was of deep cultivation. Walking was not a problem. After walking down for several hours, the cloud layer above their heads that was filled with cloud grasses became further away. Some cloud mist appeared along the road. The cloud mist was extremely unique. It was gathered and did not dissipate. Even when the wind blew past, it did not move at all. Little paths flickered in and out of view between the cloud mists as though there were complex spiderwebs spreading into the cloud mist. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.